Hey guys, this is Courtney from Willis Bloom, and today I'm here to share with you my forecast for the Gemini new moon happening on June 17th. Hopefully, my audio doesn't skip in this. I am recording on the software Loom, and pretty much every time I use the software, there are malfunctions with the audio. So I'd be really unsurprised if there is issues. So I apologize in advance if there are. This Gemini new moon is at 26 degrees of Gemini, and the sun and the moon are together in the sky. So if you have any planets around 26 degrees of Gemini or any of the mutable signs, you will be feeling this the most. And this new moon is a little bit tricky because it is making an exact square to Neptune. And Gemini is usually a sign that really appreciates clarity, and it tends to bring people together. It's the way that we communicate, it's the way that we connect with other people, that ideas are shared and spread. And it's a very curious sign, of course. But when it's making a square to Neptune, that curiosity and those ideas and that communication and socialization and decision making and the way of thinking about things can become distorted or fatigued or confused or idealized in a way where we don't actually have very matter of fact things to ground into, or the facts that we ground into, the reality that we see is being misperceived. So we're taking certain facts and distorting them to fit a narrative or reality that we want to see or that others want us to see. And there's something about this dynamic that can be a little bit treacherous when it comes to making very important decisions, signing really concrete contracts, or doing anything that is like very practical in nature and making big decisions about how to move forward in our life. When it comes to Neptune, we do want to trust our intuition, and the way that our intuition comes in is usually through feelings and symbols and synchronicities. And so those things can be very, very present in our life right now, as well as our dream life. Any kind of form of storytelling is really highlighted. But generally, what I would say is to follow your intuition, but to not do things that are high stakes. So to not make really big or sudden choices in your life. Just because of the way that this new moon is. We don't want to come out of the shadow of Neptune and realize that the decision that we made was not right for us and kind of have to deal with putting things back together. And this is not to say that, the things that you've been thinking about prior are all wrong. If you've been thinking about things prior to this and you're wanting to make a decision around this time, it's not just say that to throw all of that out, but that maybe the way that we go about things or the meaning that we give to things and situations, people, conversations can be distorted. So let's say, for example, you've been wanting to buy a house. You've been looking, and you finally feel like you found one around this time. So it's not to say that you wanting to buy a house is wrong, or even that particular house, but maybe you will overlook some important details. Maybe there will be some kind of issue with the contract where things are there's a misunderstanding of terms. And so because Gemini is our way of basically having kind of like a brain neural network for all of us together, when we have that with the square to Neptune, it's almost like we're all kind of half asleep or on drugs, and then we're trying to have these really serious conversations, and it's just not the right time for those ideas to be transported back and forth in a really tangible, solid, clear, concise way. And that's why it's good to have more of that realm of storytelling or embodiment experiences, like things that feel like they enter you into a state of flow, rather than being more of a step-by-step process. So if there are things that enter you into a flow state, or are very creative in nature or spiritual in nature, or passive and receptive and restorative, those are the best ways to utilize our social skills, our communication, our hobbies right now. Because if we try to get a lot of things done and done well and done correctly and done clearly, we might be disappointed in the outcome in a couple of weeks from now when we have the next full moon. So just kind of keep that in mind. This is really like a blurry kind of new moon. And we are all given this opportunity in terms of astrology and the evolution of our souls, so that we can look at things from a different perspective than we usually do. But when you are in that altered state, you don't want to commit to that way of viewing things, because we really need to bring it back into balance when things are more focused and clearer. So we enter into these dream realms, or these mysterious realms of the spirit world with this square to Neptune, to give us a feeling perspective, to give us intuitive perspective. And then once we see the light of day again, we can reemerge and kind of bring these two perspectives together before moving forward. So it's almost like a time of kind of experimentation rather than feeling like you have the answers. And in many ways, Neptune likes to dissolve things. So aspecting a new moon like this, where we're meant to have a new beginning, we're meant to make decisions and communicate about things. But it's Neptune's coming in here to kind of dissolve that. So it could almost be like a false start, like you decide something or you do something and it doesn't quite work out, or you change your mind on it, you don't follow through with it. It can have that kind of energy where it's not fully grounded into reality. And so if something does kind of dissolve at this time in your life, or something that you anticipated doing or wanted to do, if it doesn't quite reach fruition, that's okay. Like, not, that's kind of par for the course with this, and not to force things unnaturally. Another way that Neptune can show up in our lives is by really making us feel like we are a little bit out of control. So in some ways, our mind can get the better of us during this period of time, or the way that we're trying to communicate our ideas, it might not land with the other person if we are trying to communicate. And so because of that, we might feel like we are losing control of the narrative, or like we don't have full control of our own mindset during this time. And if you're also kind of experiencing that, how can you again enter into a flow state and maybe redirect the energy rather than try to control something that is like the ocean? It's meant to be wild, and it's living on its own terms. So things with siblings can also be really highlighted at this time as well, just because Gemini is ruled by Mercury, which is the planet of not only communication and transportation, but also siblings. So anything regarding like travel or contracts or your siblings, communication, all those things are not necessarily extremely supported at this time in terms of how they normally function. Again, everything is almost like in this haze or this altered state that Neptune brings it under. The ruler of this new moon, which I mentioned is Mercury, is also in Gemini, where it's very strong, and it's coming out of a square with Saturn. It's 4 degrees and separating, so we're getting a little bit of an energy of this, but for the most part, it's pretty much wrapping itself up. And Mercury in a square to Saturn can indicate having had difficult conversations. So there may have been some of us in these previous days leading up to this new moon that could have had difficult conversations or decisions, or had a more pessimistic mindset, or felt some sort of lack or rejection or failure or constriction of energy that we're coming out of at this new moon. And we're trying to kind of reset our mind in some way, reset the conversation or the relationship or whatever it is that we were thinking about. But it's almost like we don't have sure footing. So whatever kind of constricted energy we're experiencing before, it's trying to bounce back, but with this square to Neptune, it doesn't have the normal resources of intelligence and rationality, reason, clarity to support the recovery from whatever happened prior. And so, again, this is more of a phase of restoration through almost like stepping out of rationality and just going into the land of, well, what would be ideal? What would feel right? Fantasy, again, spirituality, and connecting more with other parts of how our brain functions rather than just our kind of pragmatic mind. So it's almost like we were trying to find a solution for something, but we felt like there wasn't the right solution, or we had to make a difficult decision or have a difficult conversation, but yet it doesn't fully resolve. Like that took place, and then it doesn't actually have the energy or the capacity to really truly resolve itself properly. So this is almost like a new moon that leaves things maybe feeling a little bit open-ended, which for people who are maybe very strongly Virgoan in nature, or even the fixed signs, they might have a little bit of a more difficulty with how abstract the kind of energy around this new moon is. Like if you're having a conversation with somebody, you might find that you don't reach a conclusion or an understanding. Things are left really kind of confusing. You don't really know where you stand on something with somebody. Or a contract as well. It's like you're not really sure when or how things are going to pan out. It's a lot of kind of things left up in the air. And so really what we need right now is to have patience and to, again, really be able to go with the flow and utilize the other aspects of our of Neptune to best take advantage of this and not try to push to that resolution faster than the universe is asking us to. Mercury, fortunately, is also making an exact sextile to Venus during this time. So even though it's coming out of that square with Saturn, and this Gemini new moon is squaring Neptune, those are somewhat unfortunate placements that do provide somewhat of a challenge for us. Even though that's happening, we also are getting support from a benefic Venus, which is in the sign of Leo. So there is something about us that is, I feel like, becoming a little bit more vibrant at this period of time, because Venus in Leo really gives me that energy of being excited about what's to come, especially in this aspect with Mercury. Maybe there's something creative that we are now envisioning in our lives. Maybe there's something that we want to pursue. Maybe there are other relationships we want to engage in. Maybe there are social events to go to, but there's some almost like a form of either distraction or committing ourselves to another area of life that feels really fulfilling, that feels really exciting, that feels really stimulating, and that kind of helps rebalance us. So it's not all this kind of dazed and confused, and it's actually a lot better to use this period of time for creative development rather than problem solving. So this Mercury sextiling to Venus is giving us even more of a boost with that particular type of energy. This could also help benefit relationships with women. So if those are feeling a little bit strained, not necessarily using this time to communicate and resolve that, but this sextile with Venus can provide greater feelings of kind of like coming together with the women of your life in a way where you don't have to talk about it, but you feel their presence and you feel that support. We also have Venus in Leo conjunct Mars in Leo. So this is important because, what's my teacher's name? I have a lot of astrology teachers. I take a lot of different courses, and I am totally blanking on his name, but one of my teachers was telling me about how when people have Venus and Mars together, natally conjunct, there can be a representation of almost like a new leaf being turned over in this lifetime in terms of relationships, where they are almost karmically kind of stopping an old cycle and starting a new one in this lifetime around relationship dynamics. So it is possible that part of this new moon could represent having that kind of reset on the way that we are in relationships or the kinds of people that we choose. It could indicate sometimes separation or having to kind of get clear on our boundaries in relationships, what we will and won't tolerate, our yes and our no. It can help us get really clear on what we instinctively want for ourselves and what will make us feel like we are proud to be in a relationship with someone, or even like pursuing a hobby, because Venus doesn't just have to be relationships. It's oftentimes just kind of any activity we also do for fun. And maybe there are things that you have been wasting your time on that don't actually make you feel proud of what you've been developing inside of you as a person. So this Venus and Mars conjunction can really help us feel very passionate about life again. And it can maybe help us reset some of those relationships and activities and hobbies to become things that are more aligned with where we're going next and with what we're actually really aligned with in a heart level, because it is in the sign of Leo, which is, of course, connected to our heart. So if something hasn't felt alive for you, this is our time to really check in with that and see what makes us actually feel alive and pursue that instead. And maybe even we'll have to cut away some things that don't align to create the space for that. Venus is also in a separating square with Jupiter. So we're kind of getting the last little bits of this. So prior to this new moon, we could have been experiencing a little bit of a lavishness where we could have indulged a little bit more than usual in some area of our life. Maybe we spent a little bit more money. Maybe didn't work as much as we could have. Maybe we socialized a lot. We didn't sleep a lot, but we had a lot of fun, or we ate too much, or we played too much video games. Like there's some element of kind of all of us indulging a little bit. And now maybe we're kind of getting back on track with this Venus-Mars conjunction. Like, okay, what's my motivation? What's my drive? Where am I going next? How can I use my willpower to create more of what I desire now that I've had this time of relaxation prior to this? Something that I am definitely keeping an eye on is Mars and Leo making a square to Uranus. And this is applying 4 degrees applying, which means we're not actually going to get the exact expression of this aspect until June 25th. Mars in a square to Uranus is actually something that I have going on natally right now. Uranus squaring my Mars. Mars squaring Uranus has a very kind of volatile energy to it that is really trying to instigate change, instigate endings, but more so kind of try to open up doors to create more freedom for ourselves. And anything that has been standing in our path, especially in terms of expressing our own individuality, being on our own and being autonomous, doing the things that we really love, being uniquely ourselves. If there's anything that has hindered the expression of ourselves or even our confidence or our uniqueness, like I'm talking about, if we have felt stifled or stagnant in some area of our life, this Mars squaring Uranus on the 25th is going to try to leap us out of that. And I say leap because it has a very energizing, jolting energy that is not slow. It is not steady. It is like abrupt. And so we may experience some abrupt changes if this is making an aspect to your personal planets. And Mars is at 16 degrees of Leo and 21 degrees. Uranus is at 21 degrees at this new moon. But of course, both of them will be at 21 degrees of the fixed signs Leo and Taurus on the day that this square is exact, which is again June 25th. So just mark your calendars for June 25th, especially if you have any planets at the fixed signs of 21 degrees. At 21 degrees, the fixed signs are Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, or Scorpio. So if you have anything around there, you're going to experience this more strongly. And just kind of notice if you feel any agitation frustration, like antsiness. I really like visualize somebody like literally wanting, they're feeling like itchy in their body. Like I need to get out. I need to move. I need to make a change, a radical change. I need to create more freedom. I need to make a decision. I need to pursue something more in alignment. Those are very common feelings, and they are something that we are meant to listen to. But the new moon at this time, we might not actually know the proper outlet for how to do that or how to make that change, because this new moon is squaring Neptune. So right now we're in a little bit of a limbo phase where we're starting to feel the oncoming energy of that square happening on the 25th, but we don't have the clarity on how to go about it. We just feel like I need to change something about this situation. I cannot stand this any longer. And I'm assuming that at this next full moon, we are going to have some type of resolution or clarity about how we can more sustainably go about this change. Because I will say, Mars square Uranus, we can not only be abrupt, but we can be a little bit hasty or impulsive in our decision, and it could sometimes be harmful. So, or be, Mars is a malefic, so it can be something that is difficult to do. Like we want to make this change, but we have to have a really uncomfortable conversation, or we have to end something that we've been doing for a long time in our life. It's like we have to rip off this Band-Aid, and that's never going to feel good. So there's something in our life that we're meant to be shifting, especially if this is aspecting your chart, like I mentioned earlier. And right now we are in a phase of digestion and trying to kind of understand what that is, how to go about that, how we feel about it, and all of those sorts of things. At this new moon, we also have Jupiter making a sextile to Saturn. This is exact. So Jupiter's in Taurus and Saturn is in Pisces. So, I mean, it's pretty much exact. So having these planets come into positive contact, I really like this, because these planets are more so like the outer planets, and they really are the construction of our societal foundations and norms. So they are our morals, they're our law, they're our code, they are our structures, like the streets that we drive through, the traditions that we hold, the beliefs that we carry, the cultural norms. All of these things are very much represented by positive aspects with Jupiter and Saturn. And so when these make a sextile like this, I feel like as a society, like the things that are happening right now are somehow going to positively actually affect us on this more like societal level. So even if we are kind of confused, but we want to make changes and we're in this weird phase, I actually think that from an evolutionary, bigger, higher perspective is going to help more people than just us. So let's say, for example, we use the decision or the thing I was talking about with buying a house. It's almost like, even though you're going through this weird phase of not knowing, a certain information about the house buying process or whatever that is, but you want to, but you buying a house actually is in the greatest good of society, because maybe you will use less emissions, or you will plant your own garden and start providing things like that to the neighbor. There's something about what we're going through right now that is ultimately like progressing us on an individual, but also community level, as souls towards a positive conclusion, even though it might in the moment feel temporarily uncomfortable and uncertain. So that might not feel very clear, but just know that what you're going through right now is being very much supported to kind of construct a positive new path for you as an individual. And that will help you actually have greater reach, greater impact, and greater well-being on larger circles of people. So it's like really thinking about things in the long run and thinking about things from the bigger picture at this period of time will benefit you, because that's how I see things happening. Also, Jupiter and Saturn can kind of show some degree of creating something that has more finality to it. Like we're really constructing something for that long-term identity that we're trying to work towards. So sometimes, I mean, that's important because sometimes that Mars making a square to Uranus has a very juvenile and impulsive energy that just wants what it wants now. And so having Jupiter sextile Saturn, I think, is going to give us the wisdom of trying to slow things down and have a little bit more perspective and balance out some of that very quick, fiery, hot energy that we might experience. So let's go ahead and jump into what this will look like for all of the rising signs. You can watch those for your sun signs as well. So make sure you watch both because they both are relevant. And if you guys enjoyed this, please don't forget to like and comment down below, subscribe and share with your friends. And if you want a reading from me, you can always check out my work at williswomb.com. And I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, up first we have Aries Rising and Sun. So for you guys, this Gemini moon, new moon is happening in your third house. And literally right when I started this up, the lawnmower guy started across the street. So the fact that it coincided with the exact moment I started this video does make me feel like there is some kind of correlation where maybe you guys have been feeling a little bit of like chaos. And that's something that I can feel with one of the first cards that I pulled for you. And also the fact that this is a new moon in your third house and squaring Neptune in your 12th house. I think many of you guys might be going through a lot of kind of like inner conflict. And that's really what I feel like this Five of Wands is about. It's like inner chaos, inner conflict, arguing with oneself, feeling unsure, and having it feel like a lot of noise and kind of like clattering of plates and pans, and trying to distinguish from all of that noise some type of meaning. And this might feel like a hard time to distinguish that meaning. And that's normal. So you don't want to force any kind of decision right now. I did pull cards before I started this reading, and I did want to pull some kind of answer card that is relevant to the reading, because with a new moon squaring Neptune, there is a lot of confusion, and I wanted us to bring our questions here and for these cards to kind of give us a direction. So I would encourage you at this point in time to formulate your question, something that may represent your inner turmoil. And then at the end of the reading, I will provide you the answer card. And it's not always, it might not be directly relevant to your question. And if that's the case, then maybe this answer isn't for you, and maybe you're not really meant to know. Otherwise, I think that obviously trust your intuition, but you can use these cards as additional support. So a new moon in Gemini and the third house is very much like ideas, communication, thinking. And with this square to Neptune, it is definitely making us feel like we can sometimes be a victim to our own thoughts. We can get confused and wrapped up in our own ideas and not really, it's almost like we're stuck in this labyrinth and we're not really sure how to get out to the other side or to arrive at a conclusion or a solution. And that's kind of the overarching energy of this new moon anyway, but I feel like it's very emphasized for you guys in particular. There's almost a need to kind of surrender to the natural flow of your own thoughts and emotions without becoming attached to them or trying to define them, which is hard during a Gemini new moon. Gemini new moons, of course, are all about beginnings, but I almost don't get the feeling of this as a beginning per se. I feel like a beginning is trying to start, but with this square to Neptune, it's not here yet. It hasn't arrived yet. There's some kind of anticipation or a formation that still needs to take place for this to become solid. So even though it's a new beginning, I think it's more so an inclination of what is to come rather than the thing, this new moon. The ruler of this new moon, which is Mercury, is also in your third house, and it's making a separating square with Saturn in the 12th. So there could have been something that you've been considering leaving behind or ending in some capacity. This could be an old habit, an old job. I am seeing some stuff around emotions and possibly a relationship. Does not have to be the case. Could be a relationship with yourself. But I am seeing something around like emotions. And I think confidence as well, that I think you guys are going through the process of becoming more in touch with. I think part of this new moon in Gemini is wanting to give you confidence in yourself. And you might have to make some changes or end some things, or you might have already done that with the goal of becoming more sure of yourself or taking care of yourself in a better way. Saturn in the 12th house, where Mercury is again squaring that planet, can sometimes have a little bit of like a self-destructive energy to it. It can be a little bit problematic for our psyche. It can make us a little bit more depressed, lacking faith, feeling not confident or not connected to the universe around us. And so Mercury making a square to that is trying to maybe stop any habits, relationships, patterns, situations in your life that is bringing about that feeling of being disconnected or out of tune with your life, or lacking confidence in yourself, or even undermining your potential. And the lucky news is that Mercury is also making a beautiful sextile to Venus in your 5th house. Venus is in Leo, and this is meant to bolster your confidence. So I think that you'll start to see that making those little changes, decisions, and adjustments, even if they're just internal in terms of how you think about yourself, I think you'll start to see that those actually start reflecting outwardly and make you start to feel more confident. Ultimately, I do feel like there is a relationship like under scrutiny here, or under focus here. And I feel like for many of you, it's the relationship with yourself and your own way of kind of regulating emotions. Because after the 5 of Wands in reverse, I have the Lovers. So there's something I feel like inside of your mind that you might be arguing with yourself about, or anxious about, or there's some kind of conflict within yourself around how to remain true to yourself. And I don't know what that means for you exactly, but with this Lovers card after it, and of course this being the Gemini card and new moon in Gemini, I feel like there is something where we're meant to be very authentic to our own desires and our own nature, especially with Venus and Mars conjunct in the 5th house at this time in Leo. It's really about our authenticity and living in accordance with what feels right for us. And I feel like there might be something where you're like still kind of weighing out how to live that way, or how that's going to fit into your life. And with this Lovers card, it's really trying to help you get to know yourself on a deeper level and trust yourself that you are moving in the right direction, taking a chance on yourself to create something or to do something that might be outside of your comfort zone, especially because Mars in the 5th will be making a square to Uranus in the 2nd, which is exact on June 25th. And this is really about taking that kind of leap. And this could even have to do with some type of financial leap as well, where you are making a purchase, you are making some kind of decision with your possessions, or in general, you're just trying to pursue something that will help you grow in your own sense of confidence and autonomy. So I really feel like this is an important time for you to have courage and self-belief. And even though that can sometimes be hard with this square to Neptune, that can really drain our confidence by giving us murkiness and not really giving us a clear path forward. And so we start to have lots of questions and we get a little bit in our heads. But I feel like this is your time to really commit to an action step forward. And this doesn't mean that you need to do it at this particular new moon, but you are setting the stage for what you're going to be pursuing. Something that is, again, more in alignment, or making certain adjustments in your life to become more confident, and taking some kind of leap of faith or trust. I also see with the 8 of Cups and the King of Cups, I feel like you're going to have to leave behind some like older baggage or older parts of your life and embody more of like this person that does own what they desire. I almost feel like there's something that you have not fully pursued or given it 110% chance, or said like, this is me, and kind of like owning something. I feel like there's something out there that you're wanting, or that you're toying with the idea of, that you have not fully courageously invested yourself in. And this is your time to be like, I'm letting go of the limitations that made me feel like I can't pursue this, and I'm fully owning all of my emotions and passions for this, whether that's a relationship, whether that's a job, whether that's moving somewhere, whether that's something much, much smaller. It's like you're really owning it, and almost like in a public way where you're not afraid to admit that this is the thing that you want, that this is the thing that you need in your life. And I feel like this commitment can come with time, because again, this new moon is squaring Neptune. And I think that is really trying to get us to connect with our own internal compass and eventually spit us out at the location of, you know, wherever our desired goal is, but we're not quite there yet. So to wrap up, whatever question you had, I am now going to give you the answer to. So I hope that you made it. If not, pause the video. But the answer to your question is no. So hopefully this is something that resonates true for you. If it doesn't, please feel free to ignore it. If it doesn't match up with your question, again, you can ignore it. But I hope that this was helpful, because this looks like a little bit of a confusing and a little bit of a daunting one. So if you did enjoy this, please let me know by liking and commenting down below. Don't forget to like, I already said that, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a great day. And if you want a reading from me, check me out at willowswim.com. I offer coaching there as well. I don't have it listed on my website quite yet, but that is something that I do offer to a select number of people. So if that's something that you're interested in, I offer career coaching, like business coaching in particular, or more like personal coaching. So obviously using astrology. All right. Thank you guys. I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Taurus Rising and Sun. So this Gemini new moon is happening in your second house at 26 degrees of Gemini, and it's squaring Neptune in your 11th house. And I definitely feel like this new moon is a weird kind of transition phase where we're trying to figure out almost like what we want with something in our lives, or where we're trying to go. But because this new moon is squaring Neptune, it's giving us a lot more confusion around that process or that decision. For you having this new moon in your second house, it could be a financial decision that you're trying to make, or there could be something in regards to just in general, like your future finances and like what you want to do with certain money, or what direction you want to go in with buying land or owning a house or having some type of possession. And with the square to Neptune in the 11th, there could be ways in which your friendship circle, your community, or even your predetermined long-term goals are giving you like a head spin. You could feel like you could feel like it's adding a lot more confusion to the process. Like maybe you don't know where to buy a house because you want to live with a friend, but that friend doesn't know where they're going to live. Like there's something around the situation where other people or your goals are not necessarily making this decision clear and easy. And instead it could be left kind of up in the air. And that's okay, because right now I don't think that we're necessarily meant to have a very tangible, solid next step. I think this is an ideation phase, especially with this Neptune square. It's giving us a lot of creative vision and kind of connection to our intuition, but it's not really helping us in the logical aspect of things. So definitely do not push any kind of contracts or really big purchases in any rushed way, but just allow yourself to kind of discuss things and enjoy ideas and creativity and what could be without getting emotionally attached to any of it or trying to make sense out of everything, because that's when we can kind of get stuck in this like loophole or this wormhole of our same kind of like it's not leading us to an end. So we can really get kind of confused. And I do feel like this has to do somehow with your career or this kind of trajectory forward in our lives where we have big goals and we're trying to take steps forward, especially because I pulled this 10th house card. I feel like you're trying to make certain financial decisions for your future, or, something related to your possessions and your resources that is going to help improve your future and help you long term. And I think, again, you are in the process of like conjuring up what that is going to be with this Magician card. I think the message here that's coming through is there's probably more than meets the eye with this situation. Maybe you're coming in with a specific idea or a specific conversation that you want to have, and it's going to develop a lot more. So this is very much like the beginning phases. Things are going to incrementally kind of creep in, and you're going to have a lot more clarity over time. So do not rush any of this, because I think that you will end up in a place that you don't want to be by rushing this process. I also pulled the Two of Wands and the Strength card in reverse. So I very much feel like there is something here where you are wanting to create some kind of plan, but you're also having a little bit of doubt around that plan. Maybe you are wavering in it, and that's probably like normal for this new moon. It's not probably normal. It is normal. So if you are trying to create some kind of plan in regards to some kind of financial purchase, or even a decision that you think is going to help progress you career-wise or goal-wise, I really feel like you can try to create a plan right now, and that's not discouraged necessarily, but that be very open for things changing drastically over the course of these next few months, because I'm really, really getting the feeling that it's kind of like, I've had this so many times in my life where I get so sure and I feel like I get this download and I have this really, really strong intuition about what I should do. And then I create this whole plan and I sit down and I start working on something very thoroughly. And then things change so much that I almost completely scrap that plan a few months later and start that whole process again. And there's kind of something around that where I feel like you guys might be going through that a little bit, and you might have, again, a little bit of doubt around what you're doing, or you might feel like you really have to hold your wits about you to feel like you're holding on to the plan, but just don't grasp onto it too tightly. There is a message coming through that I immediately thought of when I saw this Four of Pentacles, to save your money, because I do think that there is something that you will be saving up for in the future. So not making the purchase now. I think if you did make the purchase now, you might feel actually a little bit disillusioned at how things turned out, because again, I don't feel like we have the full picture yet, and we are not meant to have the full picture yet. So I think save your money, act very wisely and conservatively and cautiously when it comes to your money, so that long term you can have what you actually really, really want, instead of being, super excited, jumping the gun and spending money on something that won't actually get you where you want to go. And this doesn't have to just be financial. It could be just having any kind of like financial or career plan. You don't want to jump the gun with any of it. And Taurus, you're not likely to jump the gun anyway, but if there is a time which we might want to, it's probably now, because we are experiencing at this new moon Mars making a square to Uranus, and it will be exact on June 25th. Resist the urge to make a very impulsive decision on this day, because Uranus is in your first house, Mars is in your fourth. Some of you guys might be really driven to find some kind of security, and you're going to want to change something in your life to create that security, but you don't want to change the wrong thing. You don't want to go out and buy something or spend money on something that is impulsive to find that security or reach those long-term goals, or feel safe or feel better in your home or whatever. There might be another alternative way that you can reach your actual desired goal, which is likely going to be through some kind of conservative action, making a change to maybe how you spend money, or how you are doing things within your home, or how you look at things emotionally. It's almost like you need to make some kind of change to this really intense energy you have building about your future, and channeling it somewhere helpful, useful, constructive, instead of like getting so excited that you just like burst, which I think, yeah. This new moon is also ruled by Mercury, which is in the second house in Gemini. And previously, a few days before this new moon, it was making a square to Saturn in your 11th. So many of you guys may have had some kind of, conversation or realization about your money and your friendships, or your money and your goals, or your money and how in your community, or these possessions and those things that I just mentioned. And it might have been like almost like a harsh realization, or a very like stoic kind of reality check in a way. Like let's say, for example, you want to do something in your future. You want to retire, and it's like, okay, well, you look at your finances a few days before this and you're like, okay, well, actually I can't really retire anytime soon. I'd have to make these changes to my life, maybe sell my current house, maybe downsize, maybe get rid of this phone bill or this credit card or whatever it is to be able to achieve that goal. So you guys might have had some type of kind of conversation or reality check recently. And ultimately, this is trying to serve you so that you can come up with, again, some type of solution that is going to provide you what you're looking for long term. Mercury is making a sextile to Venus in the 4th. So there is something in regards to security or home that is ultimately trying to provide for you in some kind of way. So maybe like your relationships with your family are somehow supportive, or the home that you've already purchased is somehow really supporting you, or you got a good deal with the place that you're renting, or you have a roommate coming to give you money. There's something in that that's actually coming in to support your goals so you can reach them without having to do it alone. There's usually something around relationships or some financial management that will support you. So just know that you're doing well, but you have to maybe temper some of this kind of intense energy that's going to come up on the 25th, because we're all going to experience it to some degree. I did want you guys to go ahead and ask a question. So if you have any kind of question on your mind, this is a very confusing new moon. I want to give you an answer to that. I did pull some question cards, and I'll go ahead and give you that answer now. So if you want to pause to come up with your question, go ahead and do so now. And the answer to your question is compromise. So this is not a yes or a no, but there is something where, because there's this new moon is squaring Neptune in the 11th, there is something around community, belonging, other people that are really important for you achieving this financial goal. There is a connection here between these parts of your life, and you might not be able to reach it entirely on your own because of the way that the astrology is set up. It wants you to create that sense of connection, especially with Jupiter, which is a very social planet, being in your first house, being in Taurus. It is trying to bring people together through maybe your leadership or through your efforts in some degree. And so this is not entirely autonomous, which Taurus does like to be very independent in many ways. So the idea of compromise or relying on someone or being open-minded to other perspectives is coming through in terms of getting the right answers to your question. Your current way of viewing things is not completely accurate or completely how it's going to be. You need the input of other people to fill in the gaps of this equation and to get where you're trying to go. So I hope that makes sense for you. If it does, please don't forget to like and comment down below, subscribe and share with your friends. And if you want a reading from me, or if you want business coaching or personal coaching using astrology, which is really special, I'm only offering that to a select number of people. So check that. Actually, I don't have that listed on my website, but you can just go ahead and shoot me an email at contact@willisboom.com, or you can always buy a reading from my website, willisboom.com. Thanks, guys. Have a good one. Bye. All right. Up next, we have Gemini Rising and Sun. For you guys, this new moon is happening in your first house at 26 degrees of Gemini. And this is like not the most fun new moon. Because it is making a square to Neptune that is exact in your 10th house. On top of this, just a few days prior, your planetary ruler and the ruler of this new moon, Mercury, was making a square to Saturn, which is also unpleasant and also in your 10th house. So I feel like there's something around either your career or your life direction and your goals, and I feel like where you're headed, that you guys are confused about. and may go through some experience of having to feel, I mean, especially when Mercury was squaring Saturn a few days ago. I don't know exactly which day that is. But during that period of time, you may have had a difficult decision or conversation about something that you felt like was weighing you down or that you couldn't carry forward with you. And I really, really see that with this 10 of Wands showing up as your very first card. There's something in your life that I feel like has felt like a burden, that has felt heavy, that has felt unsustainable, or like you just couldn't stand it anymore. And with the Four of Swords in reverse, I feel like whatever this thing was, it was contributing to a feeling of stagnation in your life. Like, because this thing is here, or because I'm pursuing this path, or because I've made this decision, or because I'm in this relationship, or bought this house, or have this car, or chose this path in some way, because of that, it actually is weighing on me that there's something not right here, that's not fully aligned here, and that I'm not fully committed to, that I'm not fully certain of, that there's something exhausting about it, there's something unsustainable about it, and it's also leading to me to feel like I'm just almost burning the candlestick at both ends and not really able to fully progress. Without energy, we stagnate. And when things are really draining, they take our energy. So there is a feeling of like life is stagnating, and this new moon is trying to bring you out of that. But because it's squaring Neptune in the 10th, you're not sure about how to get out of this. It's almost like you have an idea, but it is most likely not totally accurate or not totally the full picture. And so the steps that you might take to come out of the situation might not actually land you where you want to be, because the square to Neptune can make us rather ineffective, to be honest. I also pulled this Hierophant card. So, and it's in reverse. So I feel like there's something around the current structure of your life that needs to be challenged, because the Hierophant is a lot about like tradition, a lot about beliefs and how things have been done and how we believe things should be done. And with this in reverse, I feel like you're needing to break free from the way that you've always done things, or break free from your beliefs about something, in order to feel like you can actually align with your path. And so there is a need to challenge the status quo of your own life and of your own precedent, the things that you've done in the past. So really be aware of that now. And this is especially true because we also have Mars in your third house, making a square to Uranus in the 12th, which will be exact on June 25th. Mars in the third squaring Uranus in the 12th is very much about liberating yourself from your past kind of repetitive actions or things that have been stuck onto you from your past. And even sometimes like insecurities or self-sabotaging behavior, and liberating yourself from that in order to move forward and have clarity of mind and make decisions that move your life forward and begin to kind of spin the wheel of life again. Because if it has been stagnating, it's time to get going again. And this Mars squaring Uranus on the 25th is going to try to help you do that. And one way to, ask yourself, one way to approach this is to ask yourself, what beliefs or traditions or things that I've done in the past, what of that needs to change in order for me to have a different future? Because I feel like right now there is something that you might change that might just end you up right back in the same spot, or you're not like changing it in the right way, with this square to Neptune in the 10th. And I want you to go ahead and ask a question, because I am pulling answer cards to those questions, and I already pulled it for you. So go ahead and ask your question now. And I'm going to go ahead and show you this answer card whenever you're ready. If you're not ready yet, go ahead and pause it and ask your question. Okay, so this card says wait. So I really feel like there's something in the message here that's telling you that even though there's something in your life that has felt maybe unsustainable that you're needing to change, because of this square to Neptune, there is not the clarity that we need right now to make a decision and to commit to that decision. And this wait card is trying to give you some pause or breath in between actions, because we don't want to act impulsively. We don't want to not have the full picture or not know how to go about it. And this wait card is really trying to get you ready, even astrologically, like clearing up the sky in a way where there's a lot more clarity, so that you don't just end up repeating something or having to redo something properly. So the wait card is here as a warning for you in some kind of way, to help you. Fortunately for us, we also have Mercury and Gemini in your first house, sextiling Venus in your third. So there is a desire, I feel like, to be more confident, to be more expressive, to be more social, verbose, even communicate things well, that this new moon is giving you. And yes, because of the square to Neptune, that could indicate that there are miscommunications, but overall, with Mercury sextiling Venus, it's almost giving us like outside support from our friends or our community, or even our, like, what we hear from other people. If this, even this is online or in a class or something, you're hearing something that I feel like is getting you excited about what is the potential, what you could move into next, even if you're not super clear on where you're trying to go. Ultimately, I feel like you are going through a mass awakening when it comes to your own mindset. And Venus and Mars conjunct in Leo in the third house is trying to get you kind of like more turned on by life again, more active, maybe doing more hobbies, getting out there a little bit more. And ultimately, I feel like it's trying to bring you, breathe some life back into your body and in your life in general. Because again, I feel like there's been like this feeling of being out of balance, or this feeling of being overwhelmed, or not having the proper progress towards things in your life that you're wanting. Because it's a new moon in your first house, I really do feel like it's going to give you a realization with this Judgment card about where you're wanting to go. But again, wait to make a decision. The Judgment card is very much like, I have a realization, I have some kind of almost like awakening. And then right after that, I have the Eight of Wands in reverse. And it's like, okay, I made the decision. I had this awakening. I have this clarity. But then this card is like delays, frustration, resisting change. So we're not meant to jump into that quite yet. And that might be because we are resisting that change, or because there is meant to be some kind of delay or pause here between the realization and awakening and the actual acting that out, or the actual decision. So you might need to use that period of time to clear up why you might have internal resistance to actually committing to the change. And then I'm hoping that by the full moon in 2 weeks after this, that is when things will start to become a lot more clear for everybody on how to move forward, and that this wait card will turn into a go. The last card that I pulled is the Page of Cups. So we do end on this note of having a lot more, like listening more to our intuition, having more kind of ideas about how we can move forward. So I think that there will be some type of breakthrough, or some kind of way that we can overcome a blockage, but we have to trust our intuition in order to make this decision. And I think that ultimately we will be supported in that process. And I did pull the Libra card, which has to do with relationships. So this could be concerning another person in your life, or you can receive a lot of support from your relationships to be cultivating more beauty in your life. So if there's been some feeling of depression or stagnation or being overwhelmed, people in your life right now are possibly the problem, but also the solution. Maybe not the same people. And they can help you be more present in the moment, which ultimately I feel like helps you trust more of your intuition. The more I feel like we can tune into our body, our feelings, the moment, the more we get out of our head and can flow with what is actually presenting itself in our life. And again, in our like third eye or intuition. So that is kind of the conclusion here. I feel like it's a kind of a confusing reading because it's a confusing time. And I wish you guys the best of luck. So if you want a reading from me to kind of help you through this, or coaching, I do offer coaching to a select number of people, business coaching as well as personal coaching. And of course, you can always check out my normal astrology readings at willowsbloom.com. If you're interested in coaching, check me out or send me an email at contact@willowsbloom.com. And don't forget to comment down below how this relates to your life. Like, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a great day. Thanks. Bye. All right. Up next, we have Cancer Rising and Sun. This Gemini new moon is happening on the 17th at 26 degrees of Gemini, and it's taking place in your 12th house. And I really feel like there's something trying to come in for you guys that looks very positive. But ultimately, I feel like you guys are not trusting your intuition as much as you could be. I'm really getting the sense of like a lack of faith in some kind of capacity. Before I go into this though, I did want to say if you have any questions, if you have a question, I pulled a card that will answer your question. And actually you guys got two. So go ahead and formulate your question now, and I will go ahead and show you the cards at the end or towards the end that will go ahead and answer that question. So a new moon being in the 12th house, it's trying to restore faith in humanity, in the universe, in God, that you are supported, that you can have, that you can surrender a little bit and not have control as much, but still obtain some kind of wish that you've wanted. This new moon, though, is squaring Neptune in the 9th. So I really feel like you are having a lot of doubts. And I did pull the Jupiter card as well, which is the planet that corresponds with the 9th house. And it really wants you to be positive about something. There is something that I feel like is going to continue to grow, and you can trust that it will unfold in just the right ways. I'm really feeling like you guys are just worried or concerned or almost like scared to fully let yourself enjoy or think positively about something. And this is trying to tell you to actually do that, to actually like embrace that there is going to be a positive conclusion to something, even though right now the answers might not be here. And right now you might not know how you're going to get there. You might not feel like you can totally see how it's going to, where you're standing right now is getting you to where you want to go. I feel like there is some kind of wish fulfillment, and for some of you it might be in regards to a relationship, and I'm pretty much purely saying that because of this Two of Cups that came out at the beginning of this reading. So for some of you, there might be some love relationship that you're wanting, that you're dreaming, that you're hoping for, and this new moon is saying that that's possible for you and that that's out there and it's coming. But that doesn't have to be the case for everyone. The Two of Cups has energy of a soulmate, and that could be any kind of soulmate, a friendship soulmate, a business that feels like a soulmate, like some kind of path in your life that was destined for you, that was aligned for you, that was meant for you. And again, this is something outside of your control. You can't create like a faster timeline. You can't rush destiny. And I think that's what this reading is trying to tell you, is that even though things are unclear about how it's going to get you there, that your destiny is meant for you and it will happen when it's the right time. And right after the Two of Cups, we have the Nine of Cups, which is a wish fulfillment card. So whatever you are wanting, it wants you back. And it's not something that you have to strive for necessarily. However, of course, there is always some energy of, having to learn something in the process of getting what we want. And for you, I feel like in many ways, it's really learning how to have faith. And there could be almost like a test of faith, because the next card I have is a Nine of Wands, which is about resilience, courage, testing your faith. So there's something in the situation where you don't have what you want yet, You're dreaming of it, you're desiring it, but there is something in the way, or there's some reason why you're not supposed to have it right now. And it is testing your faith and your belief in the universe to be able to provide this for you. Right now, Mercury is in the 12th house, and a few days prior, it squared Saturn in the 9th, which it can have a kind of cynical outlook on things and feel a bit more pessimistic and feel like, oh, that's not going to happen. That's not realistic for me. And start to really doubt. And it can really, again, test our faith and test our belief that this is possible for us. But luckily at this new moon, Venus is making an exact sextile to Mercury, and Venus is in your second house. So there is something in your life that is going to support your belief that this can happen. And I think for many of you, it might be the fact that your finances are looking better, or that you're seeing some kind of potential for financial improvement, or maybe you're just feeling more confident as a person or in your appearance, or something in your life, either through money or confidence or resources of some nature. Something in that area is giving you this added support to feel like, well, maybe this can happen. Maybe there is a way, and maybe this is the thing that can get me there, or this is the thing that shows me that things are possible because my finances are improving. So why can't I have the love of my life? Why can't I have it all? So sometimes we need something going right in our life to provide enough doubt to our belief that nothing great is possible. And I'm not saying you're thinking that negatively, but I think that there could be, again, just a little bit of a cloud that you've allowed yourself to become attached to that's not actually accurate. I think also something that you don't see here is that there are some things that you have more control over that you might not be giving yourself enough credit for. So as I mentioned, there is some element of destiny and things being really out of our hands with a new moon in the 12th house. The 12th house is really like outside of us very much. But when it comes to our finances and our possessions and our confidence and the way that we boost ourselves up in this world, that can get us ahead. That can open up more doors. That can lead us to that destiny, not faster, but it can, I mean, maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm contradicting what I said earlier, but in general, it can help facilitate leading us to where we're meant to go in an easier fashion. And so I think that ultimately this new moon is also, it's trying to tell you where you don't have control and to trust and have faith, but also trying to give you the confidence to feel like the things that I do have control over, I'm fully pursuing them, I'm confident in them, and I'm making the necessary changes in my life to embody it. And this is something that we really see with, first of all, with this Chariot card, which is very much about willpower, driving the chariot or the horse and buggy of our own life. What direction do I want to go in? Using your own willpower and decisions to make certain changes. And this also corresponds with Mars being in your second house squaring Uranus. This is going to be exact on June 25th, and this has some pretty big energy to it. Mars in Leo in the second house is really about pursuing, obviously, confidence, prosperity, and a sense of security in our lives. So do we have to buy a house or make more money or dress a certain way or look a certain way or act a certain way or get a certain skill in order to feel like we are having a little bit of extra security for our future and have more potentials, more potential mates, for example, if we look more attractive or if we have more money or more potential job opportunities, if we're putting ourselves out there more and being more confident. You can see how we open up more doors for ourselves and again, aid in the unfolding of our destiny in a more confident and comfortable way. So that's what Mars and Leo in the second house is doing, but it's squaring Uranus in the 11th, which again is exact on June 25th. So not quite there yet, but we're feeling it. And the square to Uranus in the 11th is really indicating that something needs to give in our lives. Maybe you've been hanging out with the wrong groups of people and you've been spending your money in frivolous ways. Maybe you have been needing to kind of find other people to network with that can actually boost you up in life. It's really about how we belong and what our goals are and how that actually maybe has been deterring from your success or your financial well-being or your confidence, and choosing to align yourself with better goals, better people, better networks, better communities that feel like they uplift you and up-level you instead of kind of add to your slow demise or slow progress. And so that is where you have some sense of control, and that's where you should put your energy and focus at this time. And the rest is in having faith that the universe will make the right people come into your life, the right things happen at the right time, and align you with your purpose, your path, your person, whatever it is that you're wanting. And remember to say yes to these new things and new opportunities. You have your own volition here, but if you choose to turn things down, I don't necessarily think that your destiny will miss you, but I do feel like it takes a lot longer to get there because you're constantly saying no to opportunities and things that are knocking on your door. The last card that we end off with is this High Priestess in reverse, which is a lot about us not really trusting our intuition. And it can sometimes mean that we need some time alone to understand what it is that we feel, like what our intuition is trying to tell us. And I do still want you to say yes to these situations that arise for you, but maybe you need to you are Cancer, so you might need to have a little bit of time in your shell to connect with your own gut. If you've been really busy, this is your encouragement, especially because this is a new moon in the 12th house of isolation. This is your encouragement to spend some time over the weekend or during this new moon to unplug a little bit, to go out in nature, to take a bath, to do something where you can actually hear yourself and know what you want, and ask yourself why you might sometimes doubt that you can have what you want. And I think that's going to give you a surprising amount of answers, because there are things that could bubble up from within. There are secrets that could emerge in your life if you actually tune in and listen to what is not being said, to things that occur in the silence. And I think that you'll gain a lot out of that. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Cancer. Before we wrap up here, I wanted you guys to ask a question. I can't remember if I said this at the beginning, but this is kind of a confusing new moon. So I did want to pull a card that will answer one specific question for you. So go ahead and ask that now. Pause this video because I'm about to show you the cards that will answer your question. So for you guys, the cards, you actually had two that came out. It says, no need to worry within the next few weeks. So there's something in your life that's about to come through for you. And again, it's really trying to say that you can trust and have faith that things are unfolding for you at the right time. And the right time is actually sooner than you realize. So don't worry about it. Don't fret. Don't have control. Especially, we're going to be moving into Cancer season very shortly. This is about to be your time to shine. And I feel like it's over those next few weeks in Cancer season that you're going to get some kind of wish fulfillment or a step forward on the path towards that wish. But it feels very positive for you, which is not something I always get with a new moon like this, and especially with a new moon in the 12th, but I'm really getting a lot of encouragement. I feel like there's a very repetitive message here of have faith, don't give up, don't worry. It's right around the corner. You can trust this. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Cancer. If you enjoyed this, maybe you'll also enjoy my readings, which you can check out at willisboom.com. I am offering coaching also to a select few people. If you're interested in that, I have business and personal coaching, and if that is not on my website. So if you want that, you'll have to email me kind of what you're looking for at contact@willisboom.com, or check out my website for my readings, willisboom.com. Don't forget to share with your friends, like, subscribe, comment down below so I can see how this resonates with your life, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Leo Rising and Sun. This Gemini new moon is happening at 26 degrees of Gemini in your 11th house. And it's squaring Neptune in your 8th house. And I am pulling some pretty intense cards for you guys. And I'm definitely getting the feeling for many of us that this new moon is a little bit intense or kind of confusing as we're transitioning from phases of life and not really knowing exactly what direction we're going in. And I think for you, you might have some kind of change up in your friend group and your community and your relationships that may trigger some insecurities within you or make you feel really uncertain about yourself. With the new moon 11th house, it's trying to create a community that fits you better or change the relationships to make them more authentic and real and open and make you feel more connected to those around you. But with this square to Neptune in the 8th, it's almost like there are things that have crept up from your, fears that are kind of influencing the way that these relationships are resolving or unfolding. And there's maybe a little bit of confusion about, where do I belong? I don't know how I feel, almost like in my own skin or about my own emotional life right now. And it can change the way that we show up in relationships. And so with this Tower card starting off, I feel like many of you guys are going through some kind of situation that is out of your control, that may have felt like the foundations are shaking from beneath you. And this is often what a square with Neptune in the 8th house can feel like. It can make us start to question a lot of things, especially within ourselves. And like, why did this happen to me? What did I do? Why am I like this? Even though it might not even be necessarily about you, this often is the case with Neptune in the 8th, that it can really draw out anything within us that has not been like healed, basically, from our past, our own fears, our own doubts, our own insecurities, and we can become kind of our own worst enemy in a way. And the next card I have is this Judgment card, which is really about that self-doubt or that inner critic. So anything that is happening in your relationships or your community, or even the way that you saw your life going, kind of like those long-term goals, there's something, I think, like some kind of rock that was thrown onto your path that totally disrupted everything, that now it's making you kind of doubt yourself and feel, again, less secure. And I really do feel like this is a hard time for you with this Three of Swords. It feels very emotional, or like some kind of loss. This could be in regards to relationships themselves. Maybe some people are exiting your life, and this new beginning, because this is a new moon, is really trying to redirect you into new types of relationships or a new type of community that is more respectful of you or is more in alignment with you and where you're going in life. But that's always disorienting to have to leave something behind to go to the new. And I think you guys are experiencing that. The ruler of this moon, Mercury, is in your 11th house, and it just a few days ago, it was squaring Saturn in the 8th. And I think this is when the realization of some kind of ending or some kind of issue that needs to be resolved, or even insecurity cropping up in relationships could have arisen. Again, just a few days ago. And luckily during this new moon, Venus is making a sextile to Mercury. So we're kind of coming out of that realization about the relationships and where things are headed and what isn't working. And with Venus in your first house, it's trying to give you almost like a boost of support for your self-esteem, to show you that you have the power to create what it is that you want for yourself. And you are very magnetic as a person, and creative and attractive right now with Venus in your first house. And even though there might be some redirections or some difficult decisions to make or things to plan for in regards to the way that you belong, even though that's the case, with this sextile with Venus, I feel like it's trying to show you that there's a way out, and a way that you also can improve as a person and actually gain a lot from the circumstance, even though it might be temporarily really challenging. Venus is also conjunct Mars in your first house. Venus and Mars together has a lot to do with having some kind of reset in relationships, where we are overcoming a chronic pattern that may have even extended from a past life or from our childhood or from our parents. And we've come in to finally reach some point of conclusion where we are ready to absolve ourselves of that, to surpass that, to overcome that, and to start a new cycle truly in relationships, and even more so in your relationship with yourself, because this is in the first house. You know, your relationship with your own worthiness, with your own confidence, with your own self-expression, with feeling like you can be yourself and really belong in groups and with your friends and with others and be accepted for who you are. It's trying to reset that and give you a brand new start on the journey for creating that for yourself. And ultimately, I think that this is going to play out in a long-term type of way, but it is kind of giving you that fresh slate that I think has been brewing for a while now in your personal life. This is really affecting you more than others because Mars is in your first house, squaring Uranus in your 10th house. And this is not exact right now, but it will be exact on the 25th of the month. And because this is a really big aspect, this is a really big deal. And because this is in your first house and your 10th, it's really hitting home in a big way. And there's something about needing to create some kind of change in your life direction, and maybe even your career that is happening. And because the Tower card started off this reading, this might be a personal change that you instigate, but there is a strong likelihood that there's some kind of push to make the change. Like you don't necessarily always have a choice in how this changes and evolves. And so you guys might be kind of thrust into needing to create a new life for yourself in some kind of way. With Mars in the first house, it's a lot about making decisions and taking initiative where you can. So even if things are happening to you or there are circumstances that are shifting the cards and you have to kind of figure out what's next, there is always some element of this also still being within your control. So maybe you don't have full control, but you have control over what's next or what can change, especially when it comes to career and our future, and kind of seeing what you really want. This Mars squaring Uranus, it can throw you for a loop in many ways and alter you as a person and your identity, but it's ultimately bringing you closer and closer to understanding what it is that you desire and who you truly are behind that desire. And this can be disruptive, so kind of keep in mind that if you're feeling ungrounded or if you're feeling this Tower energy as something being taken from you, that's normal and that's okay, and that's kind of part of this process. Ultimately, though, you have Jupiter in the 10th sextiling Saturn in the 8th. Ultimately, what's happening is some kind of progress forward, not only in your career and your life goals and your objectives and where you're headed, but also in your healing. It's almost like the way that you face these fears and heal from the past and heal from all of your worries or your insecurities. Whatever this is, whatever is changing in your life that's bringing that up, when you heal it and you work on it, you'll progress a lot more in life. You'll develop a lot more as a person, and you will reach more of what you really desire. And I think that you guys, though, in the process of this, really need to make sure that you have the time to rest. With these Four of Swords, and I pulled the 4th house card, I really feel like you guys are needing to have some time of contemplation, some time of rest, recuperation, really being in your own energy, not trying to go out and do a lot or work a lot or think a lot, but really taking the time to unplug and just kind of be in that zone of rest. I did pull that 4th house card, like I mentioned. So it talks about the past, your home base or your family, and what makes you feel secure. So right now you might need to focus on what makes you feel secure, addressing things from your past, and maybe figuring out, if some of you are affected in terms of home or family, maybe figuring out how to best go about resolving that. So to end off, I wanted you guys to go ahead and ask a question. This is a very confusing new moon, and it's really trying to kind of throw us for a loop and get us to trust our intuition and redirect us. And it can feel like a lot, and it can feel, again, confusing about where we're headed. So go ahead and ask one question, and I pulled a card to answer that question. And whenever you're ready, maybe you want to pause this video, but whenever you're ready, go ahead and press play, and I will share this new card with you. So this card says choose a new direction. So whatever you're asking about, you are really needing to start something new, something fresh. With that Mars in your first squaring Uranus in your 10th, you need a new plan. You need a new identity. You need a new way, a new desire, a new thing to focus on, a new thing to move towards. And that is what is going to bring you back to life after this Tower moment. And so don't try to kind of revisit all of the old things. It is a new direction, a new place to go in, uncharted territory. And that's, I think, what's really going to help you grow the most as a person. I also saw 1111 as I was saying this. So this does seem like a time of a lot of independence with Mars in your first house. And you are being encouraged to see kind of what you're made of on your own. And that might mean ignoring what other people want for you or what other people tell you to do, or using other people as a form of solace or comfort. Maybe it's time to kind of step out on your own and do something for yourself that you've always wanted to do that maybe you haven't had the courage to do before. So that's what I'm saying for you, Leo. If you like this, then don't forget to subscribe. I also offer readings, so if you want something similar, I can help guide you through that. I do have personal and business coaching as well if you need some extra support. And don't forget to subscribe. I already said that. Comment down below, like, share with your friends, and have a great day. Bye. All right. Up next, we have Virgo Rising and Sun. This Gemini new moon is happening at 26 degrees of Gemini in your 10th house of career, which happens to be right on my midheaven. So, and this is a little bit of a challenging new moon. Generally, with new moons, we're getting a sense of something starting in our lives. A new idea, a new beginning that is really lighting us up on our path forward. And for you being in the 10th house, this is really about a big life objective or a career goal and anything that you feel like is kind of moving you forward in life. And unfortunately, this new moon is making a square to Neptune in your 7th house. So there is something in which relationships at this time are very confusing to you, very uncertain to you. And maybe the path of a specific relationship with somebody or multiple people is being called under question, and something that you really need to analyze. And for some people, since I pulled a Tower card, it is possible for some of you that there will be a dissolution of a relationship, since Neptune tends to quite literally dissolve things. And I do believe that ultimately this might leave you into a state of kind of confusion about what's next. I do think that this is somehow related to your career as well. So not only kind of like where you're going next in life in the bigger picture, but also what do you want in your career? What do you want out of your life in general and those next steps? And if some of these relationships are confusing or going through transitions, are uncertain, if you're needing to communicate about them and kind of figure out where they're headed, that also affects you in your larger term plan or in your personal life or in your career life. And I'm really seeing those being interwoven together. We also have the Ace of Wands in reverse. And this is really talking about kind of feeling like you have maybe a sense of what you want to do, but it's really not formed. It's not something that you are acting on. It might be even kind of confusing. You might be going back and forth, having difficulty kind of defining exactly what it is you want or having clarity or certainty. It's like there is almost like just a lingering feeling or sensation, but it's really hard to kind of pin down, create a plan with, and do. And so I feel like whatever does, kind of rock your boat, whatever is uncertain for you, and undergoing a change for you, whatever that is also contributing to this feeling of like, well, now what's next? Where am I going? There's oftentimes that feeling when something leaves your life or when one thing is confusing, that it starts to bleed out into a larger picture of your life. You start to ask bigger questions or, start to redefine and look at other areas of your life as well. And so that's kind of how I see this. It's almost like the water drops and then it starts to ripple out and affect multiple facets of life. And the ruler of this moon, as well as your planetary ruler, Mercury, is in Gemini in the 10th house. And just a few days ago, it was making a square to Saturn in the 7th, which at this point in time, you might have had some kind of realization around, again, a relationship or a contract, a business agreement, that whatever that was, that union of something, you to something or someone, wasn't really working or needed to end or have some kind of adjustments. And almost like a reality check. Saturn tends to bring that. And it could have brought in a difficult conversation around it, ideas or thoughts around it that felt maybe kind of depressing or limiting, or making you really realize that what is happening. And so that's kind of what led up to this new moon. And now we're getting this kind of rebirth in your career, but it's really almost like rebirthing into confusion and haze and uncertainty, rather than this really defined purpose and really defined next steps in your life. Fortunately, though, Mercury is also sextiling Venus in the 12th house, which is exact. So I really do feel like you guys are being very supported by your angels and guides. I think your spiritual practices are really going to be here for you. People coming through and kind of being charitable in some way, or maybe saying the right things at the right time, synchronicities, dreams, symbols, things that come in and just act as like a guiding light for you and give you this feeling of support, or kind of consideration of maybe I'm not so lost, maybe there are things out there helping me along the way and everything is going to be okay. So that is really going to help mitigate some of the more intense feelings that a square with Neptune can provide us. We also have Venus and Leo conjunct Mars in the 12th house, and Venus and Mars coming together in a house of endings like the 12th house can indicate some kind of rupture in a relationship in order to begin a new pattern. And really the rupture it's not just about the relationship itself. It's more so that you are putting your foot down and no longer repeating some kind of pattern that you have been operating under for your whole life, or something that's been running in your family, or something that's been afflicting you or undermining your power or sabotaging you or holding you back in some way. And this doesn't just have to be relationships, but for many of us it will be. It might be interests for you in some way, hobbies, things that you have been pursuing, or ways of even managing your money that you've been doing that could be under scrutiny. But for most of us, I think it's relationships, given that Neptune and Saturn, which are being squared at this new moon, are both in the 7th house of relationships. So for many of us, we're really kind of like kicking ourselves in the butt and being like, no more. I'm really putting a stop to this kind of cyclical pattern in my life and waking up to what is happening right now. What's going to help us jump out of this is Mars in Leo in the 12th house squaring Uranus in the 9th. And this is not exact on this new moon, but we're feeling the sparkling of this energy, the beginning, the ignition of it. And it's going to be exact on June 25th. So on that day, we're going to really have the capacity, I feel like, to really push forward some kind of change that it will help us feel like we can see new potentials for ourselves and feel like we have maybe more freedom, or like we're starting to reconstruct a different type of belief that will allow us to feel like we are actually getting out of that pattern. And this is a hard aspect. So it's not necessarily something that is done comfortably. This is actually really disruptive, and it can have a very kind of nervous tension to it. It can feel a little bit flighty, a little bit frustrated, like very much a hot, burning up energy and trying to escape from something. And so even though it's breaking us free, it does have quite a bit of intensity to it, and it can feel at times maybe overwhelming, especially because Mars is in the 12th, which is a little bit of a challenging house to have a malefic in. So it does have a lot to do with like ending things, cutting things away, which again is very much what's needed in order to stop this repetitive cycle. But ultimately it will feel, again, somewhat disruptive, and it will help us see the future and see the potential and see what we truly desire moving forward. And I think it's also really important because it's related to growth and possibilities. It's not like we're moving towards a specific destination entirely. I think that this new moon has an inkling of a destination, but it's more so of feeling and intuition rather than the actual plan. And so I see with this Three of Wands and that Mars squaring Uranus, we're going on an adventure and we're moving away from the known, the familiar, the safe, and we're risking it. We're taking a chance. We're being courageous. And it could feel very, it could feel at times very isolating, especially because, you know, Venus is in the 12th house right now. It could feel at times like you've abruptly cut off a limb rather than kind of take things slowly and ease into them. It feels like you're just deciding to make a move and doing it. And that Three of Wands is about seeking those new horizons, going out onto a boat, not even knowing where you're going to end up, and discovering yourself along that process. What's beautiful here is that we end with the Sun card, and we also have Jupiter in the 9th house, sextiling Saturn in the 7th. So there's something that we learn about ourselves, and there's something that we grow, that we are growing from within, that helps us become more understanding of our relationships and what we really need to feel stable for the long term in a relationship with somebody, or in a contract or in some type of agreement. There is this feeling of I have learned something now, and now I know more of what I'm looking for and what can last a test of time. And that's what I feel like the Sun card is saying. Is it's saying we're getting that clarity about ourselves, about our desires. And I think this is when we'll start to see an inkling, you know, probably by this next full moon, of what we actually want. And this can very much spill into our career, our businesses, our next really big steps in life. Like, what are our next chapters? What's unfolding for us? What are we striving towards? And that is something that I feel like as we clear up some of this relationship energy, we'll also start to clear up the blockages and lack of clarity on the path of our life in general and career. So I want you guys to go ahead and ask a question, because this is a very confusing new moon, very much not clear for many of us. I want you guys to ask a question because I pulled a card that will answer that. So go ahead and pause the video so you can think about that, and then come back when you're ready for the answer to your question. Okay, so the answer that we have is get more information. So if you are asking something, you know, what you should do about something or what's going on, this is really saying that the picture is not fully here and you don't need to have all the answers. And I really feel like this kind of corresponds with the Three of Wands, where we are going on an adventure to find ourselves, to find those answers, and that we don't have to have them right now. We don't have to know where we're going when we make a decision exactly. We just are following some sort of intuition and getting more information along the way. And if you are trying to make a decision and you feel really uncertain, maybe you need more information before doing that. There's something here where the picture has only partially displayed itself. And as we see more and more of it, I think you're going to have a lot more clarity around what to do or where you're going. To finish off, I did pull two cards, the 9th house and the 12th house, which is funny because Jupiter's in the 9th and we have Venus and Mars in the 12th. And then I feel like this is really highlighting spiritual support, because these are two of the most spiritual houses, the most godly houses. And I really feel like they're trying to get us to think about, well, it says long range thinking or travel. So I really think it is trying to get us to think about things very long term. And at the same time, also realize that we are supported by things that we can't see. There is maybe a destiny unfolding, or, you know, guides that are here to offer us some things that we may feel like we lack. And if we have faith, we can start to we can feel a little bit more at ease in a difficult situation, because we did start off with the Tower, which can feel very disorienting, very unsettling, as our ground and our stability and our known is all shaken up. And the more that we can maintain our faith and our spiritual practices, and the more that we can kind of dedicate ourselves as well to helping others and being selfless, the easier these kind of transitions will be in our life. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Virgo. If you like this, you might enjoy a reading from me. You can check those out at willisbloom.com. I'm also offering coaching to a select few people, personal or business coaching. It's not on my website, but if you're interested in something like that, write me an email at contact@willisbloom.com and let me know kind of what you're looking for, what you need help with, and I can see for a good fit. And don't forget to comment down below how this relates. I would love to hear that. Give me a thumbs up, share with your friends, subscribe, and have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Libra Rising. So this new moon in Gemini at 26 degrees is happening in your 9th house. And I'm really getting the feeling for you guys that you, from the cards that I'm pulling and some of the astrology that I'm seeing, that some of you guys are kind of stuck in like an ideation phase with something in your life, not with everything. And that's what the 9th house is often about. It's often about like our big plan or vision for our life, or things that we are excited to do next. And unfortunately, this new moon is making a tense aspect, a square, to Neptune in your 6th house. So all of us are having some kind of confusion around our ideas to some extent. But you guys especially, I think that there is a little bit of like passivity that is coming through in terms of actually applying and taking steps towards your idea. So maybe you're spending like time daydreaming. Maybe you are like emotionally investing into a future concept, but you're not necessarily like moving things forward and taking the steps to concretize it into reality. And there's not really a problem with that. I mean, we can take time at the initial stages of an idea to sit with it and to make sure that it's something that we feel good about before we act on it. But that's just kind of what I'm seeing, is that there is some kind of period of incubation where you have the potential to manifest, to create something that you see. But with this Magician in reverse, it's like you are not acting on it. You see that you have this, that you have everything that you need, but you haven't taken the steps forward. And it's interesting because the next card that I have is the Page of Wands, which is about having a really new idea that really hasn't been, again, formed. But it can also represent kind of what gets in the way of us actually taking action on that. And so sometimes this is like a limiting belief, or, scattering our energy, basically ways that we kill the idea or the sapling or the seed off before it has the time to sprout fully. And so that's kind of the message here that I feel like is coming through, is that, this is a time where we're not necessarily supposed to move a lot of things forward, and that's okay, but not to kill off that potential beforehand. So if you do start to get like wishy-washy, uncertain, or lacking confidence, try not to feed into that too much, and just try to feel like you are acting more from a place of intuition and kind of feeling into when it's the right time. The ruler of this moon is Mercury, which is also in Gemini in the 9th. And just a few days prior to this new moon, it was making a square to Saturn, which is retrograde. And Saturn is also in the 6th house. So there really feels like there is a discrepancy here between like ideas, beliefs, the projection onto the future of what could be, and the actual daily routine. Like, how does this fit into my life? What are the practical elements of this? What do I need to sacrifice in order to make this happen? What level of responsibility does this require of me? And with that Mercury square to Saturn, sometimes We can become disillusioned by that amount of responsibility and not even start, or we can start to think that it's not possible for us, or we can just kind of stall. Saturn can make us really delay things, especially when it comes to our own mind, like how we see things progressing. We can start to kind of get those limiting beliefs and drag our feet, even though it could be moving along a little bit easier. But again, that's just the astrology this time. We don't need to force things when it's not happening naturally. But I think it's more so like encouraging you to recognize that this is moving forward and that this is a gift, whatever this idea is or whatever this thing that you want is. But maybe just right now specifically is not the best time. But maybe creating some kind of action plan can help you get there. Fortunately, Mercury is also making an exact sextile to Venus and Leo in the 11th house. So there's something around like friendships, community, your long-term goals, people that maybe have had similar pastimes or similar trajectories in life. They can actually help you align more with where to go and what to do. So I think that in terms of our relationships, that is where you're going to feel like, okay, maybe I don't exactly know how this is going to work out or how much responsibility this is, but maybe I can join a Facebook group where they're doing this thing and I can see, how much energy it takes, or, kind of learning what you don't know, because of course you don't know what you don't know. But when you're involved with other people, they can just progress you so much faster into an end goal or result that you're desiring. Like, let's say you want to be a parent, for example. If you join some kind of group on Facebook or in your local community where there are other parents, you can learn a lot about what resources you might need or what is available to you in the community for free. Like you can access things and not have to make the same mistakes that they made, and kind of expedite that timeline. So that's my recommendation for you, is networking and aligning with people who have a similar vision or a similar desire as you. We also have Venus conjunct Mars in the 11th house. So I really feel like doing this could actually start to create different types of friendships, and you might actually start moving from one type of friend group to another. Not to say that you're going to leave behind your friends, but more so that I really feel like more opportunities can emerge in your friendship circle. I feel like if you put yourself out there in this way, if you pursue this interest, you might actually find that you meet a lot of really like-minded people and your friendship circle starts to really expand, which is really beautiful. Mars is in the 11th house, also squaring Uranus in the 8th. So this is a really big deal for a lot of us. And I think that this is kind of pertaining to the next set of cards that I'm seeing. And Mars squaring Uranus, it's exact on June 25th, but we're getting a taste of what this is like at this new moon. Mars squaring Uranus is really trying to get us out of some kind of rut, using our own willpower and desires, helping us live more authentically, helping us pursue the things that we really want. With Mars in the 11th square Uranus in the 8th, there may be ways in which some of the goals that you have or some of the friends that you've been hanging out with, they need to evolve and they need to change, kind of how I've already been mentioning. But with the square to Uranus in the 8th, it's almost like you can't fully pursue those things until you've let go of some kind of pain from the past or some kind of limiting belief or something from your childhood. And I really see that because I pulled the 6 of Cups, and the 8th house is very pertinent to the 6 of Cups because it's where we store a lot of our wounding from our childhood. And the 6 of Cups is representing childhood memories. So I feel like there's almost something from our childhood memories that are somehow kind of getting in the way of us fully going out into the world, networking and making the friends that we want. And maybe even so, asking for help, asking for like connections and people to do things for us, that we don't even have to pay back, that we just are gifted, which is very much an 8th house thing and even an 11th house thing as well. And so it might be really, really difficult for you to be honest with people and be very blunt and direct about exactly what you're looking for from them or how they can help you. And I see that with this Queen of Swords. I feel like there's something from your childhood where maybe you have had difficulty kind of asking for what you need, or maybe you're ever made to feel guilty for something like that. So that's just one way of looking at this. Another way is that there may be some boundaries that need to come into relationships, or even some shake up in the current relationships that you have, that you are maybe tolerating something that is you're tolerating it because of something that happened during your childhood. And so it's almost like a mirroring of childhood events where somebody in your life might be crossing your boundary or might be treating you in a way that a family member treated you growing up, or a teacher or somebody in your school. And it's important for you with this Queen of Swords to stand your ground and hold a boundary and make a radical change to the kind of relationship that you have with that person. So I think that this can go kind of those two ways. But regardless, I feel like you are meant to be evolving in your community sector right now. And especially on the 25th, you're going to encounter almost like this divine moment of which direction am I going in? Like, what kind of people do I want in my life? And how can I either ask for support or set certain boundaries in order to have the best types of relationships, have the most fulfilling and supportive types of relationships? And I really feel like this is actually going to help you understand somehow, or maybe not understand per se, but like this is going to help you psychologically commit to starting whatever project this thing is. Because I really do feel like you guys want to create something, but you have not like taken the steps forward with it at all in a really tangible way. But with Jupiter in the 8th house sextiling Saturn in the 6th, I really feel like moving through some of these psychological things with friends, with people, either the boundaries or asking for support, those elements are going to somehow translate into you taking action, into you knowing what you need to do, doing the thing, committing to it, being responsible. It's like it all feeds into each other. Maybe you needed to set a boundary with a friend and that frees up energy to focus on this project. Or maybe you ask for that support and it gives you the necessary support or tools or whatever you need to actually get started. So there's something here where I feel like your relationships, your community, is undergoing a transformation. But ultimately, this is a new moon in the 9th house. So it's not just about your friends. It's really about your beliefs and your beliefs about what you're wanting to do, what you believe about your friends, what you believe about work and responsibility and where you're headed in life and your vision for life. That is where this new moon is taking place. That's where the new beginning is taking place. So it's really about kind of what you see unfolding for yourself. I also pulled this Venus card, which really talks about like friendship and pleasure and good times. And I feel like this is really trying to push home that relationships are super key here. And if there is someone in your life that you are not enjoying, then it's time to really create changes in order to make that something enjoyable. And if there are people in your life that you feel like you would enjoy getting to know or spending more time with, this is encouraging you to pursue that. Pursue things that feel fun. Pursue things that feel like they're really aligned with who you are and what you're interested in. And lastly, I did pull a card that relates to a question that you have, because this is a very confusing new moon with a square to Neptune. We can get kind of in our heads and not really know how to move forward. And so I wanted you guys to ask a question now and maybe pause the video while you come up with it. And then this card will answer that question. Okay, so hopefully you asked your question, and this card says, don't stop. So I really feel like the message that's coming through pretty significantly throughout here is that you are not like taking enough action on something. Um, and this is telling you not to stop. So I don't know if this is something that you haven't actually begun yet. I kind of get the feeling that you haven't started it. So I feel like the don't stop card is telling you not to give up before you've started. Because I do think that this new moon isn't a particularly good time to make very tangible steps forward, like I've said a number of times. But again, sometimes if we don't keep like internal momentum towards an idea, we can kill it off with our limiting beliefs or, other decisions in our lives that shelf that plan. And I feel like this is trying to tell you to keep the idea alive, maybe take smaller steps or even internal steps towards this plan or this thing that you're wanting in your life, and not to give up, not to stop, or not to do something to deter yourself from seeing this through at some point in time. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Libra. If you enjoyed this and you might enjoy my astrology readings, you can always check those out at willowsbloom.com. I'm also offering coaching to a select number of people, business coaching and personal coaching, of course, using your birth chart and maybe even your business birth chart if you have one. If you're interested in that, that's not on my website, but you can email me, contact@willowsbloom.com, and let me know kind of like what you're needing help with, what you're looking for, and I can see if we're a good fit and we can set up a call to kind of just meet and discuss everything. And if you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends, comment down below, and have a beautiful day. Thanks, guys. Bye. All right. Up next, we have Scorpio Rising and Sun. This Gemini new moon is happening at 26 degrees in your 8th house. And I really feel like you guys are really turning a new slate over. And that is really positive. But I will say that there are some kind of challenging aspects of this new moon that we're all experiencing, which has a lot to do with not really knowing what is the next step or how to move forward with something, because Gemini, where this new moon is taking place, is very logical and trying to figure out the facts and the data and how to move forward or what is clear and correct. But this new moon is squaring Neptune in your 5th house, and that brings a lot of mystery. That brings a lot of projection, emotions, things that are not always accurate, and it kind of taints the vision of what we're looking at. So all of us are going through that to some extent. And looking at your cards, I am kind of getting the feeling that many of you are having some kind of decision to make. And this could be in regards to a relationship. I have a few different interpretations, so bear with me if this is not resonating with you. But there's 3 different cards in this poll, in this spread, that have to do with making decisions. We have the Judgment, the Lovers, and the 2 of Swords. And I really feel like you guys may be in this period of indecision, of knowing kind of what you want, but not knowing quite how to get there, or maybe you have an inkling or an image or a mirage of what could be, but you're not exactly clear on the decision that you're going to make for something. So that's one of many interpretations that I have. But a new moon in the 8th house is generally going to give us this kind of new start in our emotional self-awareness. And I really feel that with this Fool and this Judgment card, it does feel like very much a rebirth where you guys are kind of, again, resetting yourselves, where you are letting go of things from the past, and especially very emotionally charged things from the past, especially things that have held you back, that have made you feel insecure, unworthy, that have prevented you from feeling confident or vulnerable or sure of yourself and where you want to go. So this new moon is trying to give you that fresh start, but it's squaring Neptune in the 5th house. And what I get from this, when I think of the 5th house, it's the house of pleasures. It's the house of joy. And sometimes with Neptune here, we are tantalized and excited by so many potentials out there, by so many potential joys and paths that we could follow, that we're not actually sure what will lead us to the healthiest and strongest place with ourselves. And I feel like that's the question with a new moon in the eighth house is how can I become the most empowered, the most healthy, and truly have this kind of rebirth of my character, of my self-esteem, of my integrity, of all these aspects of myself. How can I rebirth myself? And what path do I need to take? What joys do I need to follow in order to complete that journey for myself, in order to feel like my best, most healed self? And sometimes for some people, this could be in regards to romantic relationships as well, because the fifth house is typically associated with dating. And this could also be about children. So if there are people in your life that you're kind of confused about or that are throwing you off a little bit, it's going to be either people you might be interested in dating or children in your life. And so these two things can also make you kind of confused. How do I step out of my like past, my childhood wounding, or those things that I've been talking about with the eighth house? How do I step out of that and into that most confident version of myself? If these two things, like how do these two things fit into that, if that makes sense? So like what kind of people do I need to date? What kind of parent do I need to be in order to stop this cycle, in order to be the most healed? And so that's another potential of the message here. So I feel like for some reason, you and Libra, I felt like there was like multiple messages. So maybe there's people taking on kind of very different angles here. But yeah, I feel like there's very much a question of like, what do I want and what is best for me? That seems like a very, very strong thing. I also feel like there's a lot more going on, especially in terms of career. So Mercury, the ruler of this new moon, is currently also in Gemini in the eighth house. And just a few days prior to this moon, it was making a square to Saturn in your fifth. This can kind of bring in a little bit of feelings of like depressiveness or feelings of, especially with Saturn in the fifth, like the fifth, because it's our pleasures and our joy, when Saturn is here kind of throwing in restrictions and delays or blocks, it makes us kind of wonder or feel that maybe I can't have what I want. Maybe I can't fully enjoy life. Maybe I can't like take that step forward as I thought I could. So let's say, for example, you want to do something that's healthy, that's good for you. You want to pursue a relationship with someone or a parent in some way. There could be limiting beliefs or actual limiting factors in life that make you wonder if that's possible for you or if you can achieve that. So that was a few days prior to this, which kind of made us feel maybe a little bit downtrodden leading up to this new moon. And then at the time of the new moon, though, Mercury is making an exact sextile to Venus in the 10th. So I feel like we're coming out of that energy and almost coming into more like resourcefulness, thinking about our future. So yeah, maybe there are certain limitations, or maybe I have certain, beliefs or things that I need to work through. But also, what is my long-term goal? Like where am I trying to head? Like what kind of life do I want to lead? And with Venus in the 10th, we can usually find people or money or kind of ways to get there. So I feel like even though there might feel like there are certain limitations, and at times, maybe a few days before, you felt like you couldn't have what you truly desired, the more that you focus on that big picture, I think, especially at the time of this new moon, the more ideas, connections, support can actually come to you to figure out how to get there. And there is possibility that like insecurities could come up in relationship dynamics with that square to Saturn a few days prior to this new moon. So maybe you were feeling, again, like that healthy state wasn't fully possible for you in certain relationships. But with this sextile to Venus in the 10th, again, the more that you think big picture, long term, where am I headed in life? What's my purpose? How do I serve people? I feel like that's almost the solution here. That is almost like the actual impetus that the universe is trying to do. Because with this new moon making a square to Neptune the 5th and a square to Saturn the 5th, It's a lot of questions around like, what brings me joy? What do I want to do for me? And for some reason, there is also really strong emphasis on how you can help other people and make a difference in the world. And I think it's trying to take, I think that confusion about what you really want or where you're meant to go, instead of focusing on that, you can instead put it onto how you are meant to make a difference in this world. And that can actually bring you a lot more clarity. And that's especially true because Venus and Mars are conjunct in your 10th house right now. So, and I also pulled this Virgo card, which is talking about the serving of others, do what you must do. So it's like, what is your duty? What is your impact? What is your purpose? Those are the bigger things that I actually think will lead you to that state of healing, instead of asking yourself, well, what do I really want right now that can get me there? Because that, for some reason, is wrapped up in a haze of confusion, whether that's the dating or children or just like desires and pleasures and things that you want to do for yourself. That is all very confusing and conflicted right now. And so you're meant to be directing the energy towards duty, service, purpose. And I think that is what will lead you to understanding how you can heal, how you can be the strongest, happiest version of yourself. And we also, Mars in the 10th house is also going to be making a square to Uranus in your 7th. So this is sort of kind of cropping up during this new moon, but we won't feel it until it's exact on the 25th of June. And this is a really big deal, especially if you have anything aspecting Mars, which is at Mars or Uranus, which is going to be at 21 degrees of Taurus and Leo. So if you have planets around there, you're going to feel this a lot more. But Mars making a square to Uranus is really trying to get us out of some kind of rut. And I feel like for you guys, there's something around career or purpose, where you're headed, what is your life goals, what is the next big thing for you, even if it's not just career, what is that next chapter for you, even if that's becoming a parent or moving somewhere new, like a big new step in your life that's moving you forward. That is what your Mars is trying to reach towards. But there's something that needs to change in your relationships to actually support that. It's also possible that there's some contract or business partnership, because this Uranus in the 7th house can represent either all three of those things: relationships, contracts, or business partnerships typically, or even some kind of like lawyer thing, like litigation, if you're kind of wrapped up in that. But there's something in regards to those matters that needs to change in order for you to understand more around your purpose. They're working together. So it might also be that your purpose changes as your relationships change and the way that you are in your relationships. But I'm just seeing that there's something that's going to move forward and change in a big way on the 25th. Maybe you will sign a contract and it will help you understand where you're headed next. And it's a big change in your life that might feel sometimes even disruptive, but ultimately like it's giving us a lot more freedom and empowering us. And so, or you might break up with somebody and you might suddenly move forward in your career in some way or know where to go next. So there are multiple ways that this can play out. But the key here is that I feel like fate, I really do have the feeling that this is going to be very positive for you. For many people, I think this is somewhat disruptive, and it might be disruptive for you too. But I do think the outcome is very positive, especially because I pulled the Wheel of Fortune card. I almost feel like it's going to help you get unstuck, because the Wheel of Fortune is followed by the Two of Swords. So it really gives me the feeling that things are kind of moving in your favor. And even this state of being confused, while it may remain during this new moon and maybe even a week after, I feel like around the 25th, things could shift in a way that kind of moves things forward. Even if you still feel confused at times, it's like things are progressing. Maybe some of you won't feel confused after that point in time. I think it'll probably depend. But regardless, it's like things are picking up. Things are going somewhere. And I think they're going to change in maybe ways that you don't expect either. Like you kind of expect to head in this direction or have this type of relationship or whatever that is between your kind of goals and your purpose and your career and where you're headed and your dynamics with others. I feel like you're going to expect it to go one way and it's going to go another way. And I really see that with another card that I'm going to talk about later. But I think it's going to give you so much of what you need. Again, because this whole entire journey of this new moon is in the 8th house, is trying to bring you to a state of healthiness within yourself, of confidence, of security, of all the things we've been talking about. And oftentimes a new moon in the 8th house is also about taking a risk. And Mars making a square to Uranus is very risk energy, especially being in the 10th and the 7th house axis. Like, these are very important houses in a chart, and they hold a lot of energy in our lives, relationships, and where we're going in our life. Obviously, that's huge. So I feel like you guys are almost going to take some kind of risk or make some kind of big change or have some kind of push into a new life, into a new way of doing things that you haven't tried before. And that is what's going to break you out of old patterns and help you get into a healthy state, because you're finally doing something differently. And again, I don't think that this is happening like on the new moon. I feel like it's happening after, because Mars square Uranus is exact on the 25th. But for some reason, that aspect is really, really jumping out at me. Also, probably because Mars in Leo, I mean, Mars is the traditional ruler of Scorpio, which is, of course, your sign. So that might be why it's really standing out to me. The last aspect I wanted to talk about before I finish the cards is Jupiter in the 7th house making a sextile to Saturn in the 5th. I really feel like you making these changes in relationships and growing in your relationships with others is what is going to help you understand what you truly want in the pleasures and the joys of life. It's what's going to help you connect more with your soul and what you desire, because that's where the confusion is. Yeah, that's, I guess, what I had to say about that. So let me talk briefly about the cards again. We have the Fool, the Judgment, the Lovers, the Wheel of Fortune, the Two of Swords. So again, lots of energy around making decisions, maybe being confused, a lot of energy around rebirth, coming home to oneself, things starting to look up, even though they might be confusing at times, things really starting to improve, fate starting to turn in your favor. There is a focus on relationships as well, noticing that relationship patterns can start to improve. Even if you're not sure where it's going to go from here, it's like it's not going to be stuck in that old pattern anymore over the course of these next few weeks. So it really feels like you guys are stepping into a lot more of your power. So to finish off, I wanted you guys to ask a question, because this is such a confusing new moon that I wanted you to have some type of answer from a card that I pulled. So if you have any question really present on your mind, go ahead and ask that now. And then pause the video so you can fully say it to yourself. And then this is the card that will answer that. There is something better. So in many ways, what I want to say right now is that you guys might be confused about what you want and if you can have what you want, or what direction you're going in, or how to be in relationships. And I feel like there's a lot of questions, again, from your cards. And I feel like this card answer is trying to come in and tell you that you shouldn't settle because you're confused or because you don't have the answer, that there is actually something better for you out there. And if it doesn't feel like a hell yes in your body and mind and soul, then know that this is not the best option for you, and that there is something better out there for you. If you've been stuck in a bad relationship, a bad career, if you don't know what direction you're headed in, there is something better and more aligned with you out there. Even if it's not here right now, it's coming to you with this Wheel of Fortune card. You don't have to do anything too. Like, it's a destiny. So you can trust that if you don't settle, that you will be given what you desire, even if you're not sure about what that is right now. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Scorpio. If you enjoy this, you might also enjoy my astrology readings. You can check those out at willisboom.com if you're interested in purchasing one. I also am offering coaching for a select number of people, business coaching, personal coaching, using your astrology chart, either one or both. And we can go through the ins and outs of that. If you're interested, we can set up a call to chat about it. But just shoot me an email at contact@willisboom.com to let me know what you're looking for and kind of how I can help you, and we'll see if we're a good fit. Otherwise, you can see my readings at willisboom.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends, and comment down below, and have a great day. Thanks, guys. Bye. All right, up next we have Sagittarius Rising and Sun. So this Gemini new moon is happening at 26 degrees of Gemini in your 7th house on the 17th. And this is interesting because a new moon in your 7th house can bring about like new energy into your relationships, new dynamics. But this is such a weird new moon. It's making a square to Neptune, which really diffuses a lot of the energy. It can make it really confusing. The square for you is happening to Neptune in your 4th house of home, family, and also like quiet time. And that's really the energy I'm getting with the cards that I'm pulling. I feel like the new beginning in your relationships is actually more independence, which might seem kind of odd. But with this 8 of Cups, I don't know if somebody the 8 of Cups is really the energy of like transition or leaving something behind. And there may be something, let me look it up. Let me look up to see if there's any other meanings. Disappointment, abandonment, withdrawal, escapism. Yeah. So I really get the feeling that like somebody is, there's a couple of things that could happen here. You or maybe somebody in your relationships are going through some kind of like transition where maybe they are away or walking away from something. But it's almost like the way that things were are not quite as they are now. And it's interesting because this card is Saturn in Pisces, and that's what we have right now. Saturn is currently transiting Pisces, is actually retrograding at the time of this new moon. And Saturn in Pisces very much has an energy of like things ending. And this 8 of Cups kind of gives me that. Like we are not fully engaged and like turned on by our life and our relationship as in the way that we were before. And Saturn transiting through Pisces might be having that kind of effect on you guys with this square to the 4th house. It might be making you maybe more melancholic or emotionally detached. And this is talking about withdrawing, escaping. So there might be some feeling of like, you know, relationships used to be like this, and now it feels like I'm a little bit more alone in my own energy, withdrawing within myself. And there could be some disappointment here, or maybe somebody could have been left if there was a breakup or something like that. That's always a potential, but that doesn't have to be the case. There's something here of like separation from the union it used to be and coming into a more internal energy. And I really feel like this has to do with that square to Neptune, where it's almost like you're retreating into the fantasy of your inner world, into the, you know, your own inner life, the illusions of your own mind. Maybe you are spending more time at home or with your children or with your family. It's almost like there's a little bit of this, like we used to do things together. We used to be in this dynamic with me and this person, maybe my partner or a really close friend or a business partner. And now it's like moving away from that entity or that energy and coming more into my own energy and my own internal world. And that can feel different, you know, but it's a time I think to focus more so on self-care, on your feelings, on how you're doing. And having that time alone, I think, is key. These cards do end with the 2 of Pentacles. So I do think that many of you guys are not actually, well, there's a couple interpretations. I think many of you guys are not like actually having a breakup per se or a separation completely with somebody, but there's a feeling of like needing to remind yourself to come back to the relationship and balance out your time alone with them. Like you have to remind yourself, oh yeah, like I haven't talked to them today. Like, let me go do that. Or I haven't made the effort today. Like, let me go do that. So that's one message. Another message is that maybe some of you guys are actually in separation of some sort with somebody important in your life. And this 2 of Pentacles is saying you have a lot of other things on your plate. And so it's almost like you're just busy and you're doing all these other things that you really have to do, and you're just making more time for yourself in your priorities, or more time to rest, or more time to disconnect because of all these things that you have on hand, and that you're not necessarily prioritizing relationships at this particular time. So the new moon, it's like a new beginning. It's almost like the new beginning coming in is kind of drawing out energy from this area of our life. Like it's funneling siphoning out energy that's normally there because that square with Neptune, and the energy is getting siphoned into your home internal life, your life behind the scenes. And so if you've been somebody who's usually quite social, or really trying to get support and love from really close friends and wears your heart on your sleeve, I really feel like you're kind of, again, withdrawing and distancing yourself for some reason, and just trying to be in your own energy. And maybe that's just what you need at this time. It is a weird new moon. It is like a very strange one where I see it as more like we're in a transition phase rather than like getting somewhere. Because usually new moons are like, okay, this is our beginning. Like we're traveling on this path, and this one feels like, oh, we started with this path, but we could go here, we could go there. It's like a very undefined, weird kind of time. So don't push yourself too much. The ruler of this moon is Mercury, and it's in Gemini in your 7th house. And a few days prior to the new moon, it was squaring Saturn in your 4th. So there could have been some kind of strain in your relationships in some nature, where you had a difficult conversation or you made a difficult decision, especially related to like family or home and that relation and your relationship dynamics with that. There might have been just something where you're like, I don't feel my like best and brightest self right now, so I can't necessarily show up to the relationship in the way that I want to. Or maybe there's something happening in regards to your home that is requiring your attention, requiring your duty and dedication, and it's like the relationship is getting less energy because of that. And so there's definitely like this sense of like moodiness here, or feeling a little bit disengaged or a little bit more negative towards relationships, maybe even apathetic in some ways. Fortunately, though, at this new moon, Mercury is making an exact sextile to Venus in the 9th. So even though that happened a few days prior, even though we might have been in that energy of like, I'm not investing in this very much right now, I see you guys connecting to the potential of the relationship. I see you guys being maybe optimistic about it, even though you might have felt pessimistic before, returning to a higher perspective of this is temporary, or this is leading me to a specific destination, or this is something that you're giving it. I feel like you're giving it specific meaning that isn't too negative. Like Venus is helping you come in here and have that more kind of godlike perspective in a way, or spiritual perspective in a way, where we don't just zoom in on one specific moment in time and make it mean everything. But instead we start to see the potential and where this is headed in the future, and so much more than that microscopic view. Venus is also conjunct Mars in the 9th house. So I do feel like you having this perspective and changing almost like your beliefs about life or relationships, and kind of what you want in your future, those things I feel like are trying to have some kind of reset in a way. Like I feel like when Venus and Mars come together, it brings together the masculine and the feminine. It brings together our passion. It excites us, and it helps us restart things in relationships usually, or our value systems. So there could be something in your life where you are just viewing life differently, or you are having new values that you are kind of leaning towards. And this is going to be still together at the next full moon. So this is a process. You might not feel it right away, but it's almost like the way that you view the world is slowly undergoing a change. And it could come from learning more about yourself, or learning more about something in general in life, where you're starting to gain like a bigger perspective on, what is a relationship? What is it to have a family? What is it to, to work for this company, or whatever it is that you're doing? It is like giving you that experience, and it's kind of resetting or reforming your perspective of life. This can be also disrupted with Mars being in the 9th house in Leo, squaring Uranus in the 6th house. And this is something that we're getting a taste of at the new moon, but it's exact on June 25th. And Mars square Uranus is very disruptive in general, because it has a lot of kind of flighty energy to it. Luckily for you, I'm really getting the idea that these houses are not very intense. And like, I think that you guys, Uranus and 6 can be a little bit wonky, but like for the most part, I feel like this isn't going to be huge. But I am getting the sense that maybe what's changing is your way of viewing life, those perspectives that are changing, that are adapting, that are growing. I think that is also kind of going in line with responsibility, with work, with routine, and what we have to show up and do. Maybe sometimes like we don't have a choice, like we have to do those things. That and your beliefs are needing to go through some kind of like transition and both kind of change to become more compatible. There's some tension arising between that. Maybe the way that you view relationships and view life and view how things should be differs from the way that your life actually is and like how much responsibility you have, and you need to update your programming. So for example, let's say you have a new job and you're used to working a set amount of hours, but now at this new job, you have to work a lot more, and your relationship is undergoing a change because you are working a lot more. And so it's almost like the current responsibilities of your life and the current beliefs about how your relationship should be and how much time you should spend together and how much time you should spend working, those things need to like adjust and alter to fit each other now. And you might even want to change also your level of responsibility based off of your beliefs. So both of them can change and alter. But there's something in there that is very dynamic that is going to be unfolding, especially around the 25th when this is exact. But we can kind of get presented with what that might look like in the future at the time of this full moon or new moon. Luckily, we have Jupiter in the 6th, sextiling Saturn in the 4th. So I really feel like you're going to understand what you need to do in terms of your responsibilities, what you need to take on or not take on in order to create solidity and stability within yourself and your home and your family. So I think you're very aware of what it takes and you're willing to rise up and meet that challenge. You're willing to do it from a kind of optimistic point of view, especially if you do make those changes. I think you're going to be almost like more willing or more accepting, either changing the way that you perceive it, you believe about it, you think about it, or changing what you're actually doing and to some extent. So I also pulled this card, the 12th house, which says your faith, hidden tendencies, large institutions, or overwhelming events. So I really feel like you are in a cycle of kind of like malaise in some extent to it, maybe emotionally or in your relationships. And this is really, I feel like this is trying to kind of tell you that you're supposed to continue to have faith and not push or force things forward. You can be in a state of surrender. You can be in a state of passivity. You can be in a state of taking care of yourself and focusing on your internal world and not have to fix something or address something. You can truly just understand that this is the process towards getting towards, this is part of a natural process that's evolving you into your absolute desires. And there are moments in life where we take dips and have high highs, and we need all of them. And so I think this is really trying to say that this might be a little bit of a dip emotionally, and that's okay. That's like very much expected at this kind of new moon. And to really just be in a state of patience with yourself and with others, of not trying to change things or make it different, but really allow things to just be as they are. And you'll notice that you naturally and gradually come out of this into a state of a lot more bliss and happiness. But everything has its time and has its place. So the last card that I have for you guys is an answer to a question. So I want you to go ahead and ask a question now. This is a confusing new moon. So anything you want to ask, this is going to be your answer of some sort. So go ahead and ask that now, maybe pause the video, and then I'll share this with you. Okay, so the answer to your question is recovery. So some of you guys maybe just need to know that whatever it is you're concerned about within yourself, within your relationships with others, your career, whatever it is that you're worried about, I think that this is trying to say, especially with the 12th house card as well, that you are in a time of recovery. And recovery, when you're getting over a cold, you are not trying to force yourself to get better. Maybe you do things to help, right? Maybe you take some vitamins, do things here and there. But for the most part, you're not trying to like rush your body's process. You're not trying to push yourself to go back to work or go out and work out really hard. You understand that the recovery process is a transition where you are not fully like sick, but you're not fully better. You're somewhere on the mend, and you need time to allow yourself to transition from one state to another. And that's how I see this phase of your life right now. Whatever it is that you're worried about or asked about, it's in a state of transition and recovery, and it needs that time to go and process things on its own and in its own natural timing, and to just go within and enjoy this time alone for what it is. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Sagittarius. If this resonates and if you like this, then you might also enjoy my astrology readings, which you can always check out at willisbloom.com, and you can purchase one there. I also am starting to offer coaching, either business or personal coaching or blending of the two. And this is just for a select few people. So if you're interested in something like this, it's not on my website, but you can email me at contact@willisbloom.com and just kind of let me know what you're looking for, how I can help you. I'll see if we're a good fit. We can set up a time to connect and go from there. And again, if you enjoyed this, please don't forget to comment down below. I love to read your comments about how this aligns with you. Please give me a like, subscribe, and share with your friends so more people can see my work and my efforts. And I hope that you guys enjoyed this, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Capricorn Rising and Sun. This Gemini new moon is happening in your 6th house at 26 degrees. And from some of the cards I'm pulling and the aspect that's happening to Neptune, I'm definitely getting the feeling that there is quite a bit of headiness with this new moon for you guys, and for everyone, a lot of confusion, and probably headiness for everyone because this is a Gemini new moon. Of course, that's ruled by Mercury. It's all about our mindset. It's all about our ideas, our communication. And sometimes Geminis can think a little bit too much. But because this is a new moon in the 6th house, there usually is a really strong connection to how our like mental health is doing, like how our mind is doing in terms of the responsibilities that we have to take care of, the everyday things of life, our routine, if our body is well-oiled, like a well-oiled machine, and how our mindset can really be affected by those things. And this new moon is squaring Neptune in the 3rd, which is also related to our mindset and communication. So I really feel like there's something going on here where there is just kind of trouble, not trouble, but like overthinking happening, and at times maybe worry or indecision. And I can really see that coming out with this first card of the 8 of Swords in reverse. And it's really a time for you guys with this new moon to kind of surpass or let go of the anxiety. And that's why it's in reverse. It's really trying to get you guys to come from maybe being hyper focused and worried about one specific thing at a time to maybe getting a bigger picture. And the square with Neptune can try to help us do that. But sometimes in the process, it actually makes us a little bit more confused. And I feel like there's something around here where you guys are trying to get your life in order, get your work in order, get your responsibilities or your health in order. But I feel like maybe you're hyper fixating or you're worrying. And this 8 of Swords in reverse is trying to show that you are in the process of trying to come out of that. You're trying to again have that new perspective and not have as many kind of negative thoughts or worries and things about things that about things because you're too focused on them. That's really a very common practice for the 6th house. We can be kind of granular or microscopic in nature, and it can really have us lose perspective. And so that plus maybe projecting potential futures and maybe seeing things that aren't there or twisting people's words, those things can really influence us to really worry about like a bunch of potential realities that aren't happening. And that's kind of what I see is taking place or potentially taking place. And we're meant to be coming out of that. We're also meant to be coming out of criticalness as well. So if you are being overly negative about yourself specifically, this is really encouraging you guys to, again, get a bigger perspective. Why am I doing certain things? Why do I feel this way about myself? And give yourself more grace in that process. We also see with this next card with the Two of Swords in reverse, this is a card of kind of like indecision, feeling maybe stuck or stagnating. And usually it's because we have so many options, so much information, so many ideas, and so much going on in our brains that we become almost paralyzed with our analysis. And so that's kind of what I'm seeing happening at this new moon. Even though it's supposed to be a new beginning and help stabilize us, it's actually not that way because of the square to Neptune. In fact, I think we can become overwhelmed by the amount of information, by the amount of things that we have to do, figure out. And that's when we can kind of get, again, critical or negative or worry. And so that's one of the biggest messages at this time, is to really not try to force yourself into having a decision or idea or a concrete way of moving in handling your life and responsibilities, because, I mean, unless you absolutely have to because of timing, but at this particular time, it is really abstract type of thinking that works best, or creative and spiritual thinking. And it's not necessarily the best time to get things done, which can be uncomfortable for a new moon in the sixth house, which tends to want to be highly productive. So if you're feeling like you're trying to produce, become efficient, to move forward, and it's like you're reaching a state of overwhelm or confusion or anxiety, this is really trying to tell you to slow down and maybe be a little bit more present instead of trying to get to somewhere. And I think that's really the ultimate thing that's going to help you. The ruler of this new moon is Mercury, which is in Gemini in the sixth house as well. And a few days prior to this new moon, it was making a square to Saturn in the third house. So for many of us, there could have been something that happened prior to this new moon where we were really feeling like we wanted to get our shit together, but we could have had some type of negative thinking that negatively influenced the way that we were productive, or the way that we went and handled things in regards to our health, or in regards to our work, or in regards to certain responsibilities that we have. So think about it like this: like maybe you had a difficult conversation at work, or and it kind of influenced the way that you showed up, or maybe you felt like you needed to get a lot of things done, but you were your own worst critic and were being very perfectionistic. Or maybe you felt like you were kind of butting up against limiting beliefs or certain roadblocks that made you feel like you couldn't do something properly or do something well. And so it creates more almost like animosity in the mind, like animosity towards yourself, towards things that you're trying to do, maybe towards other people if you're trying to collaborate. And it just creates this feeling of like disconnect, or just more challenge in order to be productive and communicate well. And luckily, though, at this time of the new moon, this energy is kind of waning. And instead, we have an exact sextile with Venus and Mercury. Venus is in the 8th house for you. And so this is really going to help you confront some of those limiting beliefs, confront some of your fears that may have been presented to you a few days before by some of those blockages or difficulties or that hard conversation or whatever that was. It could have triggered something inside of you, and that is actually being supported to work through at this time so that you don't allow that to get you stuck, basically. So this is helping you overcome this feeling of I'm not making progress, I don't know where to go, and that making you spin out like, I'm not good enough, what am I doing, where am I going, and start questioning yourself. I feel like you're overcoming a lot of that internal like anxiety towards the self or internal fear about things in your life or insecurities. And it's helping you, again, just kind of feel a little bit more empowered, so that you can eventually move forward, even if it's not right now in particular. With the Four of Wands, I do feel like there is some kind of feeling of accomplishment that is going to be on the horizon for you. Let me also look up, because the Four of Wands is really a card of celebration, and just want to see if there's any other words. Celebration, joy, harmony, relaxation, homecoming. So maybe you guys have been in kind of this flustered type of energy, but I feel like I'm sensing you come out of this over the course of these next few weeks. And this new moon can kind of instigate some flustered energy as well, because we're ungrounded and confused and don't have a clear perception of reality and where things are headed. But with the Four of Wands and the Justice card together, I really feel like you guys are going to come into a state of more balance. Maybe this is you taking some time off of work, taking some stuff off of your plate. Maybe this is you kind of delegating things for the future so you don't feel like you have to do it all right now. There's a feeling of like pulling back your energy so that you can calm down the mind and the nervous system, because that's really the feeling that I got. It was like a feeling of you being overwhelmed and the nervous system getting overwhelmed, and you realizing that that's not in your best interest. So I think that you guys are learning how to take care of yourselves a little bit more, and I think that's coming from Venus and Mars being conjunct at the time of this new moon in the 8th house. The 8th house is really where we store a lot of that kind of fears, doubts, insecurities, traumas, like these very intense, often negative emotions that are linked to things from the past. And with these planets coming together, I feel like it's trying to give you a way to heal and feel empowered and best take care of yourself. And I think part of that is going to be these planets are going to help motivate you in order to either take some time to relax or to celebrate what's going well or to create some kind of balance inside of your mind. But it's really like you are motivated to properly give yourself what your nervous system and your mind need in order to feel a lot more like stable and just taking some of the pressure off. It feels like you're learning how to really be there to support yourself and like take some pressure off. And that might be a process because this new moon has very mixed energy. I really do feel like it's going to unfold over time, and that Venus-Mars conjunction will still be there at the full moon. So you'll still be experiencing this unfolding over the course of the month. We also have Mars and Leo in the 8th house squaring Uranus in the 5th. This is quite dramatic energy. And this is not exact at the time of the new moon, but we're going to get a taste of it. It's going to be exact on June 25th. So we're really kind of revving up to this experience where we're going to want to make some really big change in our lives. And I absolutely see that with this Tower card. I feel like you guys are going to make some kind of decision that is going to help you prevent the wrong thing from happening. One of the definitions of the Tower in reverse is averting disaster. So I feel like you guys are going to do something to transform your life or yourself or to change where you're headed in some way. But I feel like this is actually maybe a little bit more emotional, but we'll get to that in a second. But you're going to do something to change yourself or your life in some way that is going to help you avoid potential pitfalls that you could have been headed towards if you were just kind of living in a state of overwhelm and just grasping towards things anxiously without actually, truly seeing if it's healthy and in alignment for you in the future. And Mars in the 8th house is very much willing to do the internal work, willing to look at what drives us, what motivates us. Is it fear? Am I being pushed to transform for the wrong reasons or the right reasons? And really kind of narrowing it down to what is the best thing for me ultimately, and facing my fears, maybe taking a chance on myself to do something that I actually really need, that's actually really good for me, that I might feel is outside of my comfort zone, or I might feel like is of some type of risk for myself. And that's what your Mars wants to do. And with this square to Uranus in the 5th, I really feel like something needs to change in terms of what you've been doing for pleasure and joy and fun. This could be in terms of relationships or hobbies or things that you've been doing to distract yourself. But the 5th house is very much like, I'm in the present moment and I'm doing what I want to do when I want to do it. And there's something about this that I feel like has maybe led you astray in the past. And now you're becoming very aware of how maybe immediate gratification or seeking personal pleasures or seeking the easier thing in the short term actually has hurt you long term. And so I feel like you guys are going to come into a state where you are now going to do the thing that is going to help you heal long term and become healthy. So that looks really, really positive for you guys. I also pulled the 5th house. So again, I really feel like you're trying to become, Sorry, I just saw someone walking outside and I thought she was coming to my house. But you guys, I feel like, are almost like changing your relationship with what it is to feel like you are in your childlike state. And that is, I think, what is happening with Uranus in the fifth house. You know, I pulled the fifth house here. I feel like it's really trying to emphasize that there have been things that you've sought out in this childlike energy of like, this is what I want, this is what I'm going to do right now. And that has maybe deterred you in the past. But it's almost like, how can we still embrace our childlike curiosity in the pursuit of the things that really feel pleasurable and fun, that are actually more like healthy? Because what I feel like is that you guys have had times where you've been in your childlike state in a way that's actually negative for you. And I feel like now you are trying to come into understanding how to be in your childlike essence and pursue things that are going to really uplift you, that are really going to help heal you. So for example, let's say this, like, let's say you, maybe you are in child consciousness when you really want to eat a bunch of food and stay up late and say, fuck it, I'm not going to do my work tonight, I'm going to do that tomorrow. That would be one example. And then in a positive example would be you guys saying, you know what my child wants to do right now? I'm very overworked. I really need to go out and frolic in the field, play with my pets, and just have fun right now. That would be like the healthy version of this. And I see you guys coming into that healthy version of this. So yeah, I feel like there's trying to, especially because this is a Gemini new moon in the sixth house, which is a lot around like being responsible, doing the right things. I almost feel like there's this paradigm of like, sometimes Capricorns can be too focused on like work and responsibility. But I feel like there's a need to integrate more of that childlike self. But at the same time, I think sometimes when it's not integrated properly, sometimes we can like rebel and go into the unhealthy expression of the child, which can sometimes be like overindulgence or even sabotaging sometimes, or ignoring things, you know, for short-term pleasures and things of that nature. So you'll know if you are experiencing any of that or not. But ultimately, I think that you are trying to embrace more of this fifth house energy. And on this card, it says, with the trust of a child, fun, romance, and making art, and doing it dramatically. So if there's anything in your life that kind of feels like that type of energy, I definitely think that's where you're moving towards. You also have Jupiter in the fifth, sextiling Saturn in the third. So I do think that the more that you pursue your childlike energy in a positive growth-oriented way, the more it's actually going to stabilize your mindset, so you don't feel so overwhelmed. Because maybe you're overwhelmed because you're trying to do too many things, or you're overworking. And I feel like you're trying to come into a time of a little bit more balance between those two adult and child selves. And that's going to be very healthy for you. Okay, so to finish off, I wanted to let you guys choose a question, and I pulled cards. Actually, it was supposed to be one, but 3 came out, so there's obviously a message here. But I pulled some cards that will be the answer to your question. So go ahead and ask a question now. This is a confusing new moon, so I thought we could all use a little bit of clarity. Pause the video to form that, and then I will go ahead and read this off to you. Okay, so the answer to your question is, it's up to you in the near future and perfect timing. So I really feel like there's something coming in here that's saying that you have the choice of whatever the matter is. You can decide. There isn't necessarily a particular destiny, but that you can really do what it is that you want to do. Nothing is forced on you. And that can sometimes feel like that with the sixth house energy. We can sometimes feel like we don't have a choice. But I think this is trying to say that you are empowered, that you do have a choice around what responsibility you do and don't take on, or what it is that you move towards. So maybe removing some of the pressure of like, what if I make the wrong decision? What if what if I'm doing the wrong thing? Or whatever it is your question is, it's like, it's up to you, which means that it can go anyway. And whatever it is that you choose is the right way for you. in the near future and perfect timing, if you have multiple things around timing, this is trying to talk specifically about that. I think it's trying to tell you that you are right on track. You are in the perfect timing, and that you don't need to rush things or overwork or worry about things, because in the near future, it's all going to make sense. It's all going to unfold as it should. Things will click into place, and that is the right timing for you. So you don't need to worry about that being off track for some reason. So if you enjoy this, Capricorn, you might also enjoy my astrology readings, which you can check out at willowsboom.com if you're interested in purchasing one. I am also offering coaching to a specific types of people, and not a lot of people at once. So if you're interested in something like that, I offer business and personal coaching, or a blend of the two, using astrology, of course. So go ahead and shoot me an email if you're interested in that at contact@willowsboom.com. Kind of explain to me what you're looking for, how I can help you, and we'll see for a good match and have a call. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for joining me. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below, and share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Aquarius Rising and Sun. This Gemini new moon is happening at 26 degrees of Gemini in your 5th house. And this is a weird one, I will say, because it is making a square to Neptune. And anytime we experience Gemini energy being kind of corrupted by Neptune energy, we can get a little bit confused. We can be uncertain about the path forward. And ultimately, for you guys, being that this is in your 5th house, this could be related to topics concerning your children, any kind of hobbies that you're interested in, your dating or romantic life, things that you are trying to create. Those areas of your life are having a new beginning, but the beginning can be very confusing. With this square to Neptune in the 2nd house, there is a little bit of confusion coming in around stability, self-worth, finances, resources, confidence, and how that impacts your decisions in regards to the 5th house topics I just mentioned. So one of the things that I'm seeing for you guys is I feel like there is something that is, for many of us right now, not really progressing forward. And I see that especially with this Ace of Pentacles in reverse. It's almost like there is a need to decide something, commit to something, or do something, especially in regards to, again, these 5th house topics where we're deciding, how do I pursue something that brings me more joy? How do I have better relationships with people I'm dating or with my children? There's something about that I feel like, or your interests or your hobbies or your business, whatever it is that you typically get a lot of joy from, there's something about that where you might feel like it's not really progressing. Maybe you are trying to, create something with your business and it's not taking off, or you are procrastinating. It's almost like you're kind of dragging your feet in regards to a decision. I think for a lot of you, it could be related to a relationship with this 10 of Cups. This is very much like, this brings me a lot of bliss. This brings me a lot of love. This brings me a lot of joy. And it's almost like you're needing to have some kind of new energy come into the 5th house topics, but in pursuit of this pleasure and this joy, you are actually not progressing in pursuit of it. It's like, normally the things that bring you a lot of joy, maybe they don't bring you as much joy right now. Maybe it's because you owe money, or you're worried about money, or you're not sure about money. Maybe you want to pursue things or do things that are more fun for you, but you're feeling like, again, like you can't get traction on that. Like, let's say you want to do a hobby, or you want to go on a trip, or you want to improve your relationship with your children. So you want to take them on a little kind of vacation, or, try to take them somewhere that they would enjoy. But it's like, oh, I don't have the money for that, so I can't do that. Or I don't have the confidence to pursue that kind of person, or I don't have the stability in my life or the resources to do the things that I feel like I would actually really enjoy. And so that's what I'm seeing here, is there's kind of like this feeling of stagnation, and maybe even a feeling of failing to do something, not being able to do something that is really happening here. And I think it's because especially of like financial reasons for many of you, or reasons around confidence. And ultimately, I feel like you guys are trying to reach a state of bliss, of harmony, of alignment, of doing things that you really actually want to do. But again, financially, there are things that are causing delays, that are stalling you out with this hangman in reverse, that are making, maybe having, leading to indecision, or yeah, there's something in your financial sector that's not allowing you to actually be able to just like do what you want to do the thing that's fun, to improve those relationships in the way that you want to. Whatever it is, it's like there's some kind of financial or internal lack of confidence that's leading to you having those delays. We also have the Ace of Cups in reverse and the Ten of Pentacles in reverse. And so I definitely feel like you guys are having the need to develop your self-love and your financial situation, because both of these might be lacking a little bit. Like you might be pushing down how you feel about things and neglecting yourself in certain ways. And that is leading to this feeling of being repressed and not confident and not like your fullest expression of yourself. And so there is a need to put attention towards your inner stability as well as external stability with the Ten of Pentacles in reverse. There's something financially that's not feeling abundant for you, that you're feeling like you're having some kind of lack, and it's time to address that situation as well. I'm not saying to actually address it right now in particular, because this new moon does have very abstract energy that is not necessarily the best time to make important decisions on how to solve problems. It's a confusing time, but it's important to, I guess, get into the energy of abundance and the energy of self-confidence, and then make maybe more practical moves later on as the month starts to unfold, especially as we move towards that next full moon that we're going to experience. The ruler of this moon is Mercury, which is in Gemini in the 5th house along with the moon. And it's making a square, a few days before this new moon, it was making a square to Saturn in the 2nd house. Again, this is very much feeling the limitations of financial decisions. Maybe you felt like you committed to paying for something and felt like it was a burden. Maybe you made a mistake financially. Maybe you just feel like you're not at a place financially where you are feeling successful and you're feeling a little bit more pressure. Again, I feel like it's really coming into that sense of joy, and even maybe impacting your relationships and your sociability and the things that you really want to do for fun. And it's kind of thwarting it in some way, because you feel that limitation and that worry and that lack, and it's impacting the ability to just enjoy the present moment. Fortunately, though, this is a separating aspect. It did happen a few days prior, and now it's coming into a bit more support, where Mercury is sextiling Venus in the 7th exactly at the time of this new moon. And this is going to indicate that your relationships, people coming into your life, people offering support, encouragement, love, they're actually going to help you feel more optimistic. They're going to help you connect more with that feeling of being in joy and fun. And they're probably going to help you maybe even financially as well. Maybe they give you money because you say you're stressed out. Maybe they give you an idea of how to pursue money. Maybe you do something together. But there's a feeling that someone is coming in to offer additional support for you, so that you're not just feeling that lack on your own. You also have Venus in Leo and Mars in Leo conjunct in the 7th house. So Venus and Mars together is trying to bring our passion back alive and trying to kind of reset something, especially in terms of our values and the way that we've been pursuing something. For you, this is in the area of relationships. So the way that you've been maybe managing money in relationships, or maybe your values in relationships, or maybe the way that you've been in regards to relationships with others, maybe how you've invested or not invested into people, all of that is kind of coming under question and being reanalyzed and reignited. So maybe the fire of passion about being there for your friends, or being in community, or being in a relationship with somebody, maybe that's coming back online. Maybe you're trying to approach that differently than before, looking at it again from a different perspective, trying to end old patterns or things that felt like they weren't moving you forward or weren't progressing you. And especially I see this with Mars in the 7th house squaring Uranus in the 4th. I can see there may be some changes to relationships and changes to where you live that is going to be happening even more so on the 25th when this aspect becomes exact. Mars in the 7th, square Uranus in the 4th. There's something in regards to your relationships and the way that you are at home or with your family, or your responsibilities at home, or even your emotional nature. There's something about these two things that are not currently like working, that need to be changed, that need to be updated, that you need to feel like is more in alignment, is giving you more freedom, is more just passionate, I guess. So if there's something that's a little bit stagnant or outdated or not correct in your relationship and home life, and there's something that needs to adjust there, this is going to be the time to do it on the 25th or around that point in time. You also have Jupiter in the 4th, sextiling Saturn in the 2nd. So I really do feel like when you make some changes to your home life, to your family, or to your emotional nature, that is being prompted by your relationships, that change in your home sector is actually going to help you with financial stability. So maybe you, I don't know, maybe you do something that somehow increases your finances or helps you understand what you need to do to plan for a successful financial future. There's something here where you're going to gain a feeling of more stability, especially over time. I have this card that I pulled, and it says idealization, confusion, and sacrifice, which is the Neptune energy. So many of you guys might be going through some of this in your life where you are confused or feeling like you have to sacrifice something in your life because of your financial situation, or maybe where you feel like you are idealizing something or someone and that needs to change. So this Neptune energy is just really kind of further illustrating how Neptunian this new moon is for you guys. And then the very last card I have is an answer to a question. So go ahead and ask one question now. And the card that I've pulled is going to be in response to that, because this is such a confusing new moon. I wanted to give you clarity. So go ahead and ask your question, maybe pause the video, and then I will read the card now. Okay, so this card says success. So whatever it is in your life that you're asking about ultimately is going to end in success. And that might look different than the way that you think it's going to look. That might not happen at the time you think it's going to happen, but you are reaching some successful resolution of this thing. You are reaching something where it feels like you are going to be happy with the ultimate outcome, where things look like they turn out in your favor. So if you're concerned about something right now, especially financially, don't worry. With the success card, I really feel like things are going to play out for you better long term. And this is just kind of a weird spot right now, and things are improving for you. So this is what I have for you, Aquarius. If you enjoyed this, you might also enjoy my astrology readings, which you can purchase from willisbloom.com if you're interested in knowing what's coming up for you this year or any other information. And I also am starting to offer coaching, business and personal coaching, to a select few people. And that's not on my website, but if you are needing help with something in particular, then shoot me an email at contact@willisbloom.com and let me know what you're wanting help with. And obviously we'll be using astrology for that and just other coaching modalities. But if that is something that you feel like I can help you with, then let me know what it is that you need help with, and I can see for a good fit. Thank you guys so much for staying tuned. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment down below, and share with your friends, and have a great day. Bye. Last but not least, we have Pisces Rising and Sun. This Gemini new moon is happening in your 4th house at 26 degrees of Gemini. And this is a little bit of a wonky new moon, because new moons are typically about beginnings, initiating something, having the formation of something, and kind of knowing what the next steps in our life are, even if that is sometimes wrapped up in an ending. But this new moon has very stagnant type of energy to it, because it's making an exact square to Neptune, which is in your 1st house. So you guys are very much being hit by this new moon in a harder way than other people, because I think that there are lots of things in your life right now that are up in the air, and that level of things not being solid in your identity or in your like desires or your path forward, all of those things can feel really unsettling, and it can just impact you more because Neptune is in the 1st house of the self. So Gemini new moons are typically about having ideas, signing contracts, communicating, getting the facts right, the data. But because this is squaring Neptune, we tend to feel like, wait, I don't know if I got that right. I don't know if I communicated that. There's misunderstandings here. I'm projecting something, or that person is seeing something that I didn't say. And there can just be a lot of murkiness and confusion, especially when it comes to emotional expression, because this is in your fourth house. You know, if you're really trying to share your vulnerabilities and your feelings and what's going on behind closed doors, it might get kind of distorted, and it might be something that you even don't understand. How do I feel? How do I want to move forward with this thing in my life? And it's really trying to give you a sense of groundedness. I mean, some of you guys might have some questions in regards to your home or your family, your living situation. Do I want to move here? Do I want to live with this person? Do I want to update my home in this way? Like, do I want to pull back from this family member or have a child? There's a lot of questions around your home family living situation that you might not really know where you want to go. You might feel like you are in the process of, again, developing an identity that isn't formed yet, that isn't certain yet, that isn't taking shape yet. And so for that reason, it's a lot of kind of jello-y, you know, watery substance of like, I will take shape of whatever is here in this moment, whatever thoughts are here in this moment. But it's not really solid in terms of how do I move forward? This is my plan. It's not going to be like that. So I think really it's important for all of us to know that it's okay to wait. It's okay to wait to make decisions, and just recognize also that you can't always trust your feelings. You can't always trust your thoughts, and that you might get a little bit dramatic, or you might feel even sometimes like a victim to circumstances. And there can feel like there's a lot in life that you are maybe being passive to, and you're just kind of like receiving things happening to you. Or you could just feel like out of control in some ways. So those are all potentials that you might experience. And I think it's, again, important to know that whatever it is that you're going through, that you just kind of ride the waves and not buy into a particular thought or emotion a little bit more than another, just because things need more time to evolve. Things need more time to become clear, and they are not clear right now. So you cannot trust all of the perspectives that you're currently experiencing. One of the first cards I pulled was the Queen of Cups in reverse, which I feel like upright is a lot about intuition. In reverse, it does have a lot to do with emotions and not always being able to rely on the clarity of our emotions, because it can become really fogged up right now with what we think is happening, and it can become distorted. So I think the most important thing to do with this card is to focus on really caring for yourself and feeling whatever feelings you do have without becoming attached to them, making meaning out of them. This card can sometimes indicate codependency. So if you feel like you've been too attached to someone as well, especially within the home, if you live with somebody, or if you're spending a great deal of time with somebody, if you've become too attached to somebody for emotional stability, this is also your chance to kind of go and reassess your relationship with yourself and take care of your own emotions. And yeah. Oh gosh, I feel like I have to sneeze again. Okay. The ruler of this moon is Mercury, which is also in Gemini in the fourth house. And a few days prior to this new moon, Mercury was making a sextile to Saturn in your first house. So this can really feel like a bit stressful, and it can bring about sometimes this feeling of negative emotion, or even sometimes negative self-concept, like I'm not where I want to be in life. I feel like I'm not good enough at this. Why is my appearance like this? Why are my relationships? It can extend to any area of life where you start kind of really questioning yourself, or feeling more despondent, or lacking this kind of feeling of being very emotionally stable and secure. We can start to have doubts creep in, and insecurities creep in about ourselves, our path, our appearance, our decisions, and it can rock our emotional core and our feeling of inner stability, and make us feel like there is a little bit of lack in our lives, or a little bit of pessimism. fortunately, this is a separating aspect, so we're really coming out of that energy. And Mercury at the time of this new moon is making an exact sextile to Venus and Leo in your sixth house. So I really feel like the more that you're working on your health, your routine, your actual job, or whatever other kind of responsibilities you have, the more that you're doing that, and even doing things that involve teamwork, like having support from maybe colleagues or people that are working on a project with you, or people who have the same goal as you, who are, you know, everyone's important in the achievement of that goal. Having that is actually really going to help stabilize you. So maybe it's having a specific routine that you're getting up at this time and eating at this time that's going to help stabilize you. Or maybe it's feeling like you're a part of a team, making a difference, being of service, connecting with people. Maybe that will make the difference. Even if it's you being efficient and productive and getting a lot done in a day, maybe that will make the difference. But there's something here where we're getting a little bit more support through our daily grind and actually feeling like we're gaining more confidence back. So if there was some feeling of insecurity, it's doing those little things in your day-to-day life, especially taking care of your health, your physical health, that is going to replenish you and make you kind of look past whatever those negative thoughts could have been a few days prior. Also at the time of this new moon, we have Venus and Leo in the sixth house conjunct Mars in Leo. So wherever we're having these planets come together, I really see us kind of getting a little bit of a reset or a restart and turning our passion back on. So there could be some old patterns or ways of doing things that were leaving you feeling less energized. Maybe you felt like you were less social or less productive or less healthy. And now these planets coming together is trying to get you to restart or reset some kind of pattern so that you can actually free up a lot more energy and get a lot more done in your day. And this will again contribute to both your physical and mental health. Also, Mars is in the sixth house, squaring Uranus in the third. This is getting a little we're getting a little bit of this energy at this new moon, but we're really not going to feel the full force of this until it's exact on June 25th. This is a big deal, because Mars squaring Uranus can have very kind of like chaotic energy that wants to make some change, that wants to be free, that wants to do the things it wants to do when it wants it. It can have a little bit of impulsivity to it as well. And with Mars in the sixth squaring Uranus, that drive to be productive, to get things done in your health, to do things at work that you need to do, or everything that I was just talking about, that drive towards achieving maybe more health, can be, it needs to involve some kind of change to your mindset. Maybe it involves some need to communicate something. If you're working on a team, maybe you need to kind of drop a bomb or be very clear and blunt with people about something in your workplace. There might be a need to clearly communicate something. If you're working on something with somebody towards that same goal, there may be some kind of curveball conversation that could disrupt things that you need to initiate, or that someone might initiate. Another thing is that you might need to change your mindset around work, health, routine, the things that we've been discussing. The way that you're currently viewing it is maybe not compatible with where you're trying to go. So let's say, for example, you're trying to be really healthy, but you're thinking about foods in a way of like, this food is good, this food is bad. And then it's like there's something around that that's actually making you feel like it's too polarizing, and then you're attracted to the bad food because you can't have it. And there's something around the mindset that needs to change in order for the health, the routine, the vitality, the structure of your life, the productivity of your life to flow more easily. Like the way that you're viewing it right now is not compatible with where you're trying to go. Another possibility with this is that you could be very busy with this third house energy. You could have kind of a lot of things come up that are unpredictable in your day that make it harder for you to be productive and efficient. Maybe your kid gets sick and you have to go pick him up at school, but you wanted to get this X, Y, and Z done today, and it kind of throws a wrench into your day. So there's something about, needing to find that right balance between having like structure and routine and maybe some level of unpredictability. There's a need to maybe adjust your mindset as well to be very adaptable, but to also be structured. There maybe a conversation you need to have. There could even be something that comes up with your siblings that also affects your work or your health. And so these, or their health even, probably more yours. But anyway, so all those things are just kind of potentials. But Mars squaring Uranus in general is indicating there needs to be some change, or there could be some changeable radical energy that comes to us that we're not necessarily choosing ourselves. So just kind of keep in mind that, if you feel like you are putting a lot of pressure on yourself that to get a lot of things done or be a certain way, but there's this like volatile energy happening, that's okay. Like life can be unstable at certain points, and you can't set the same standards and expectations of yourselves when there's periods of time or events happening that are very destabilizing, because it's just really unrealistic. And this is something I can see here with this Saturn card. It says, be realistic about, be concerned about, you must wait before you can. And I feel like Saturn really is trying to tell you to have a reality check where you are productive, you are efficient, you are focusing on that, but at the same time being realistic about what you can get done in a day, being realistic about, the kinds of distractions and things that come up in our life that are necessary, that are things that we have to take care of, and not be hard on yourself about that when those things do happen. And I think that the more that you can adjust your mindset to be adaptable and to kind of go with the flow, you'll actually start to feel a lot more productive and stable, because when you manage your expectations, you will feel like you're fulfilling them. And that's what I see with Jupiter in the third sextiling Saturn in the first. This is actually a really key moment in time where, maybe you've set the bar too high or the standard too high, and it's actually it's actually hurting you. And so I think that ultimately what's happening during this new moon is there can be some adjustments that take place with those expectations, so you feel more satisfied, and it improves your relationship and stability within yourself. And this is ultimately a new moon in the fourth house, so it's a lot about feeling secure, safe, stable within your own emotions, within your home. And so a big part of that is how we talk to ourselves, what we think about ourselves. So it all kind of feeds into each other. I also pulled the South Node card, and it says, remember, reconsider, now is not the time. So there can be stuff from the past that can also come up during this period of this new moon. So this is very much like a fourth house topic as well, which is where this new moon is taking place for you. The fourth house is about our past. It's about our ancestry. It's about the way that we likely grew up, or the way that our parents were with us, the way that our parents' were, and how that whole lineage plays into who we are and how we look at life. And so it might be a time to kind of remember where you came from in some way, remember how far you've come, and give yourself credit for that. Even if you don't know exactly where you're headed next or how to get there, all those things that I said could be very malleable and in flux. And it's important when that's happening that we don't get bogged down by the belief that we're not making it or we're not where we should be. I think it's actually more helpful to kind of look to the past and compare it to where we are now to see, actually, I've grown a lot as a person, and I've become more emotionally stable. I've taken chances on myself like I haven't before. And I think it gives you the perspective that is a lot more forgiving, and something that I think will really benefit you. And in this very important time of your life with Neptune and Saturn in your first house, you are really forming your identity for the future, and the way that you talk and think about yourself in relation to your past and your improvements, all of those things are really going to help you become more of who you want to be, rather than kind of chastising yourself for not being better. So just kind of keep that in mind. I feel like there's some self-love messages coming in here, especially with that Queen of Cups in reverse, which very literally is about self-love. The next card that I pulled was the Page of Wands in reverse. So this is really about having some kind of idea that is not acted on fully. So there could be blockages, there could be delays, and there could be very much an internal thing as well, where we want to do something, but there are either external or internal factors that are kind of getting in the way of that success. And I think that's kind of a message that was coming through in the astrology, where there are productive things that we want to achieve, but yet there are unpredictable things that could distract us or get in the way. And this could also be internal as well. It's like our own mindset, our own limiting beliefs around what we can and can't do can disrupt us and can make us not fully act on some of the things that we desire. And if that's happening at this new moon, just know that that's normal, but slowly try to set expectations that are low, that you can achieve, that you grow confidence in to overcome those limiting beliefs. And I think that you'll find that you feel a lot better. I also pulled the Page of Pentacles, which is about developing some kind of skill, maybe even having some kind of manifestation or opportunity come to you that you've been wanting to work on. So I really do feel like you're going to end up turning things around, or things will just naturally progress in that direction. And I think what it's trying to say is not so much focus on the outcome of something or the achievement of a goal, but rather the process of acquiring the skill or the talent needed to achieve a goal. So not getting super focused on the long term, even though Saturn can sometimes indicate that. And Saturn moving through your first house really does want you to think long term. But sometimes Saturn is also, while it is thinking long term, it is also thinking very much about what I need to do now to get me to that long term, instead of just remaining in the state of overwhelm and future thinking. So right now, what can you do to develop the skill to become who you want to be? Just one particular thing to work on at a time. This card is telling you that focusing on that will help you achieve more emotional stability, more confidence in yourself, and will again get you to where you want to go. But the last card that I have is the Hanged Man, which is surrendering, letting go, and achieving new ways of looking at things. So even if I feel like, oh my gosh, I'm like still getting over this cold, you guys. Even if your life unfolds in a way that is unexpected, which I do think that this new moon, and especially squaring Neptune in your first, this new moon is really bringing you progress at some point, but it is also bringing in like detours and unexpected outcomes and things not ending up the way that we're necessarily having in our mind from the beginning. And that's kind of how life is anyway. But generally with Saturn the first, with Neptune the first, you're going through this larger cycle of becoming someone else. And you need to be able to think about yourself differently in order to become that new person. And you also have to surrender to expectations that you might set for yourself around how your life is going to look. Because sometimes, again, life just doesn't unfold the way that we anticipate. So I think the biggest message here is really being able to adapt, to let go of your things that you're holding onto too tight, of your expectations, and really try to develop the skills, try to do the things efficiently, try to take care of your health in the way that you want, but also leave a lot of space for the unknown. And that is what Neptune is trying to bring you. So to wrap up, I want you guys to ask one particular question, because this is a very confusing new moon, and I wanted to pull a card that will answer a question that has been on your mind. So go ahead and pause the video, think about your question, and whenever you're ready, press play, and I will give you this response. Okay, this card says, within the next few months. So whatever your question is, it is coming back with timing. And I think it's trying to reassure you that whatever you're concerned about is going to become clear or be resolved or have progress made within the next few months. So the Hanged Man, which is a lot about kind of pausing, not pushing things, not forcing things, which I'm seeing it more as adapting, but there could be some nature of like the universe kind of putting you on pause and not giving you all the answers. I feel like this is saying that within the next few months, the answers will come. Things will become clearer and more solid, and you'll know where you're going, what you're doing, and why. And I think that the act of surrendering right now is going to allow everything to unfold on its own proper divine timing. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Pisces. If you enjoyed this, you might also enjoy my astrology readings, which you can purchase from willisbloom.com if you want to see what's coming up for you the next year, if you want to talk about your own psychology and what you can do to best take advantage of opportunities coming your way. I'm also offering coaching to a select few people on either business, personal, or blend of both coaching and using astrology. So if you're interested in something like that, send me an email at contact@willowsbloom.com. Let me know what you're wanting to work on, and I will let you know if I can help you on that. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment down below, and share with your friends so more people can find my work. And I hope you have a great day.